brought out to the open, and then they say, guess
We
what,
weren't
everybody?
live
This
the
is
whole time on
COVID-19 and
YouTube.
the 21 vials.
The whole time.
This article is trying to
I
make
missed
you
out
think,
on all that important
well, maybe
information.
it was because they were smuggling out research that they
All right,
had
we're
done
live now on
through
YouTube.
naturally occurring animal viruses. So do you see what's going on here? They are preparing the way
So much
for
for
the
being
COVID
perfect.
announcement to be made. They are trying to cast shade on the idea that it was actually manufactured to make you think, well, okay, we're going to pin it on these Chinese guys because they were just screwing around with this thing that they found naturally. That's what I think is going on. But I want you to see a little more. It's going to get crazy here in a minute. Take a look. Independent of the coronavirus, the FBI's focus on China's biosecurity appears to be part of a long-standing suspicion in the U.S. government about China's involvement in biological sciences. Blame China. Don't blame Bill Gates. Blame China. Several recent high-profile Justice
There's
Department
something
cases
going on with
involving
that Bill
export of
Gates
sensitive
guy.
Technology have involved Chinese scientists.
He seems to
Person
be in
with regular
control of a
ties to the
lot of
Chinese government.
things.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Most prominently, the Justice Department in January
Vaccines.
announced charges against, there he is, Charles Lieber, the chair of Harvard's Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology, for concealing his ties to the Chinese government. Let's blame it all on China. Don't say who was paying him. Blame it on China. It's a clear-cut case of a conflict of interest, and
Blame it on the
unfortunately,
rain.
it's not an isolated event or incident, said the FBI Special Agent Joseph R. Bonavolonta, head of the Boston field office, and announcing
Most
these
prominently,
charges.
the Justice Department.
Lieber, who is free
I'll let
on a
him read
$1
it.
million bond, has not
I'm done
yet entered
reading
his
shit.
plea on the charges, and here is his perp walk.
In fact,
Nice to see that. It's nice to see him when he's going out of federal court. He's been arrested.
I don't think I'll
You
ever
can
read
see
again.
He's very conflicted, and he should be. You know, it's a shame. If what he did
I'm
is
going to
true,
listen to other people
what we
read
think
to
he
me.
did is true, come on, man. The FBI's focus on China and Chinese scientists is also raising concerns among some academics who fear it smacks of racial profiling. I'm concerned that the current trend in national security is toward profiling against people of Chinese descent, said Nicholas Evans, an assistant professor at the University of Massachusetts Lowell, who specializes in medical ethics. So you see this, right? Now they're trying to say, well, maybe it was some Chinese guys who found coronavirus in nature, and they mishandled it, and they screwed up, and they infected themselves, and then they infected other people, and yeah, they were smuggling things around, but it's all the Chinese. You know, don't say who was paying Charles Lieber. Let's just throw in Charles Lieber so that you're familiar with this,
Well,
but
see,
we're not going to really say what happened.
Donald Trump
And
thinks
let's
it's a
just,
Chinese.
let's make it racist, right? Let's say,
thing.
oh, you're trying to say that all Chinese
He's calling
people,
it the
right,
Chinese
Asians, they just
virus,
like to
so
smuggle viruses in their
That's
pockets.
why it's really hard to
That's just
trust
what they do,
that
'cause
guy.
they're Asians. I mean, come on.
You
this
know,
is
I know
ridiculous.
you're really trying
It's
hard
like,
to
you're a
cover
racist
up
if you
his
talk about this. No, I don't care what
faux
race
pas.
you are. If you're smuggling freaking viruses, it doesn't matter what race you are. That's called something bad. That's bioterrorism, right? Anyway, let's keep going. That's not only racist, it's bad practice.
You don't hear
FBI
Donald
and
Trump
other
saying
intelligence and
that
law
it's
enforcement attempts at profiling have very often been harmful.
this virus was
without
created
making
in
us
the
any
U.S.
safer.
You
So,
don't
yeah,
hear him
let's
say
just
that.
try to
That's the
avoid
problem.
hurting anybody's feelings. Let's not bust the virus smugglers. Because if they're Asian, we don't want to racially profile them, right? This is ridiculous. Evans also questioned the FBI's focus on scientists hand-carrying biological samples as a unique threat. He's questioning the focus? Come on. He pointed to previous examples like a U.S. lab in Maine that was fined more than a decade ago for importing highly pathogenic avian flu viruses from Saudi
The crow's
Arabia.
back.
Well, that's weird. The FBI claims it is impossible to determine the contents of samples accurately, even if they're declared under current import laws. That's true, but I'm skeptical about the degree to which this particular behavior adds significant risk to security, given that there are many other ways to get biological organisms into the country. Okay, now what is he saying? He's saying, oh, well, there's other ways they could do it, so we don't need to get all worried about this. It's not that big of a deal, It just happens. People smuggle stuff, not a big deal. We don't want to hurt their feelings. We don't want to look like we're racist. Wait a minute. Yanzong Huang, Yanzong Huang, a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, said it's true that China has long had loopholes in its biosafety regulations. Quote, that's why Chinese President Xi Jinping in February talked about beefing up the legislation for biosafety and biosecurity, he said. That history has already encouraged rumors like the idea that the coronavirus originated as a bioweapon. Okay, so before we go on here, apparently we have comments coming in. Oh my God, David is not answering the questions and answers. Yes, I am. Many of the questions and answers were about wanting more information on what's going on with the coronavirus, of course, because this is a big part of it, so I'm giving you some new information. I have a whole series of slides, folks, where I go through all the Q&A.
You can't answer all your questions live, friends.
As quick as I can, but I do believe
Come
this
on.
is mission-critical information, so
The
hang in there.
guy's
We're going to get to your Q&A soon,
intelligent,
right?
but he's
It's gonna
not,
happen. I
like,
promise.
super
Now, with relations
genius.
between China and the U.S. deteriorating, Huang expects collaboration on biological research to grow even more
Just
difficult.
listen to the
reversing
guy.
Decades of cooperation. He says, I often argue U.S.
Or listen
engagement
to me.
with China is the most successful in the era of public health.
Don't
Such
listen to me.
cooperation even survived the difficult
Don't
period
listen to
after
me.
the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests.
Unwise.
Now, however, those relations are being set back as hostilities between the two countries
Took some
grow.
pictures
You could argue
yesterday.
health is borderless, especially when two countries face these common challenges. This would be a time for them
This
to
is me.
collaborate mostly closely, he said. That
And
turned out not
the
to be
new
the case.
addition to the
All right. So now we get into this thing, which is
local
so
landing
funny. Okay.
adventure
Bill
park.
Gates. Don't worry, Bill Gates is going to come to the rescue. He's going to save you from the dreaded coronavirus. which
Local
he might have
landing.
actually paid for based on some of the intel we're getting.
It's going to be the
What
biggest
is he
thing since
saying?
sliced
Locked
bread.
Gates. Oh, there's a pun, right? Bill Gates warns the lockdown could last 10 weeks and should be nationwide, as Trump wants to restart the economy in days. And then it says, Bill Gates has warned that
Look
a
at this guy.
super painful period
Bill
of social
Gates.
isolation should now be the top priority. In fighting the coronavirus across the U.S., the Microsoft founder was speaking as part of an ongoing
Stay
CNN
home,
town
self-isolate
hall.
with
Of course,
cough and
CNN.
fever.
On the pandemic and
How
said
many
that 6
people
to
have
10
coughs
weeks
and
of
fevers,
hardcore
and now it's all
isolation
COVID?
nationwide is now
Oh,
necessary.
fuck you.
And the caption there says, Bill has warned that a super painful period of social isolation is needed to fight the coronavirus. What about those hands, Bill? What about those hands? Are those hands the hands that put themselves on the money that paid for this thing?
Yeah, never
Did
trust
those
a guy in
hands
a
send
fucking
emails
suit
and texts
and a
to
tie.
people asking
Period.
when was the virus going to be ready? Can we release it now? Should we wait? Did those hands shake hands with the people?
If she's
who
in a suit and
paid
tie, don't trust
to
her.
make this virus? Did those hands work on touching the walls in the lab as he leans against the wall and he's laughing as they're telling him how effective this thing is going to be? I don't know. But I don't like this at all because remember, Bill Gates stepped down on
I don't like
Friday
it
the
either.
13th. And they're trying to make Trump look bad, which is normal. Oh, but wait a minute, there's a silver lining. Because there was, however, some light at the end of the tunnel, Gates said,
Hold on.
pointing out that the
think
vaccine trials are now underway.
It's coming.
Well, wouldn't it be nice to get
coming.
a Bill Gates vaccine, right?
Ach.
Well, the vaccine could very well be
Did I get it on
no
yet?
problem.
Sorry.
So I went and I looked at this. It's kind of a big announcement, you know. Bill Gates is trying to say we got to stay down for 2 months, which of course is going to completely devastate the economy, which is their agenda. And I want you to look at the comments. This is so freaking funny, okay? Here's the first page, and you got the sidebar there. I'm going to take it away. It says,
Sidebar.
First question, first comment. Bill Gates is a hypocrite. He should donate $60 billion to the people of California.
Or Canada.
Second comment.
CA.
No one wants
Canada.
your AI vaccine, Billy. Go F yourself. We're going back to work in the areas the president says are fine, not you. Then, the next comment is, easy for a billionaire to say. Then the next comment is, Gates is no medical expert. He is a delusional billionaire who thinks he is a master of the universe, a eugenic creep. Then the next comment, Bill Gates is a college dropout who never earned any undergraduate degree. Apparently, he has lost his mind and believes
Well,
he has
that's
a
not-
PhD in epidemiology.
Let's not
And then, what do we got?
let's not be
Find
too hard on the
Gates and his
college
ugly wife to
dropouts
be
here.
Absolutely repulsive. They are for eliminating a large portion
Oh,
of the
yeah.
world's population. The next
I
comment
dropped out of
says,
college.
How much has this multi-billionaire donated to the CDC, vaccine research, cancer research?
But then
and
again,
others?
I'm not trying
Because
to.
he's too busy
run the
utilizing all
world.
of his medical expertise shilling
All right.
for CNN.
So,
Then it says, easy for Gates to sit
Smart.
on his billions and tell others what to do. He doesn't have to worry about where his family's next meal will come from. Stick to your own business.
well,
And
that
right
one, that
away,
one's really
spend your
smart.
time
That one.
Fixing the Windows 10 mess.
really.
Another Bill who thinks his success at one enterprise makes him expert in all others. Reboot. Bill Gates should zip it. Getting rich off of a mediocre operating system does not make him an expert here. So this is really, really great and really, really funny. We are going to get to the Q&A, folks, and we do have to get through other stuff first. So please, you don't need to keep making that comment, okay? We know. Thank you.
Well, just ignore the comments.
This is another thing
Ignore
that
the
came out.
comments.
Bill
David
Gates
Wilcock.
is not planning to use microchip implants to fight the coronavirus. If you heard that story, you can pause it here and read
Pretend
that.
they're
That
not
is
there.
Actually not true.
They're there,
So I
but
wanna
pretend they're not
calculate
there
some
and then
percentages
revisit
here.
the
What
questions
percentage of
later
the
and
world's
then answer
population
them.
has actually died
If they're
from
worth
coronavirus?
answering.
We look at the population, 7.8 billion people. This is one way to calculate it.
7.773
So there it is. That's what
billion.
78 billion looks like. You can stop this and count the
7.8 billion. It's
So
getting
then
up
we
to
got to
8.
figure out, okay, how many deaths?
7.5,
At the time
like,
I did, it was
2 years ago.
27,198, right? So
Year ago.
7.8 billion divided by 27,198 gets you this number, 286,785 units of that. Then in order to figure out a percentage, you got to divide 286,785 into 100, and lo and behold, you get this number. So let's again be clear that the number of the percentage of the world's population that has died from this virus is 0.0003%.
Oh no! Be
Which all of a
careful!
sudden makes all this media fear-mongering look a lot less serious, right?
Doesn't it?
Think about it.
Doesn't it?
And then, as I said last time, what was the cost per casualty? You can estimate $41 billion from
You just
the
have to
Gates
do simple
Foundation,
math.
an extra 5 that they
This
spent
is
on
what
other
I've been
stuff.
saying.
You divide that number in,
I haven't been really saying
and
very
lo and
much.
behold, what you get
But that-
is
I have been saying that.
$1.5 million
Do the math.
per death. That is a very expensive virus. Unbelievable.
Do the math.
We've already seen some things suggesting the internet might go down, the 3 days of darkness. I don't know when it's going to be. It could be the end of the month, could be next month, could be tomorrow.
Pandemic.
No idea, but I'm very excited about it when it does happen.
The pandemic of
Again,
fear.
We already got the first emergency broadcast system message here in Los Angeles. The phone went crazy. It goes, beep, makes this horrible noise. And then it says you got to stay home over the weekend. So that already did happen. So the next one could be coming anytime. A lot of people are now depositing money. They're getting out of the markets in the flight to quality. That's one of the things. This
Oh, look who it
bill,
is.
the $2.2 trillion bill.
It's Mitch
A lot of
McConnell.
Great stuff happened that's going to help real people like veterans. And all the mainstream media wants to do is act like it's all pork and it's all just bad stuff. But no, this is actually helping real people stop complaining about it, including nationalizing the Federal Reserve, which we've been asking for ever since Kennedy. A lot of people are getting a spiritual awakening from this, the coronavirus Great Awakening. Hollywood
Say more
is
about
now
Mitch
saying,
McConnell, please.
Never going to work again. That's it. I'll never work
Because
for
this
you again.
guy
We're done.
is
Hollywood
nothing
over,
but,
and we're never coming back. Well, that's just ridiculous. They'll obviously want to do more when everybody goes back to work.
What?
Anyway, you might not have seen this before, but this is all coming out now. Pictures of Jeffrey Epstein with Bill Clinton, and they look awfully chummy, don't they? And Epstein looks like he's had a few too many to drink. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to come out, folks. That's just the beginning, And
All right,
this was
so
where Q announced that the Federal Reserve had been
Here's how I
nationalized.
see it.
The headlines are getting crazier and crazier, as you see right
Does
here.
anybody care?
The quarantine, civil unrest, but it's not really happening.
No.
Then you have other headlines, as I've said before, that
All
look
right.
differently, where China has proven that COVID can be stopped in its tracks just by the same thing we're doing, social distancing. They have no new cases except for those that are imported, and in fact, single-digit cases, meaning less than 10, okay? It's not a big deal anymore. And then we talked about this guy, the Nobel laureate, predicting that we're going to get through this a lot quicker than the media is saying. I talked about that last time. And that was another one.
Dispatch guy.
But yet we have headlines like this: 100 to 200,000 dead in America. No city will be spared. Lockdowns could go on for months. And then with a sidebar like that, which you can pause and look at. Now, 200,000 people in a country that has 3.3 million people is still less than 1%. So yeah, it sucks. And I'm not saying this thing is nice. This is a horrible problem. It's a very serious problem. But it's definitely not going to kill large numbers of the population. It's just not. It has a bell curve. It goes up and down. It decays quickly. We're all doing social distancing, and everybody who's immune can go back to work. They're not going to give it to anybody, and they're not going to get it. Okay? It's that simple. Once you get over this thing, you're done. So
Look at this
you have
raccoon.
crazy stuff like this coming out. Facebook,
Crazy
Google,
raccoon.
and Twitter are struggling to handle the election after spending billions to avoid a repeat of 2016, i.e. Trump winning. The tech giants are careening from crisis to crisis as their foes change tactics. This
I don't
is
see it.
ridiculous. They're literally complaining about how
there.
they're
It's
trying to stop Trump from winning the next election through tampering, and we already know what they're up to.
Well, we
They're
don't really
complaining about
want
how it's
him,
not
do
working.
we?
Isn't that something?
David Wilcox
The
to,
virus
you
has
know, like,
transformed the elections. Here's how. This is where
let's
they're
be
saying
honest.
nobody's gonna be
The whole
campaigning,
system's
nobody's gonna be
fucking
debating,
corrupt, right?
and it's all going to be done by mail, which
David.
they can totally manipulate.
David.
And now they're trying to debunk good
David.
information, like the fact that if you take vitamin
You're
D,
not
which I
listening
was
to me.
talking about,
It's all
you're
right.
less susceptible to have as bad
Let's
of a
listen.
symptom. Of course, they want to debunk everything and have you feel hopeless. So we got these horrible headlines like this. Italy is fearing riots. April has been canceled. SOS, New York City. You click on that, it's not a big deal. It's just about that boat going in. But Drudge is kind of making some real headlines here. Oh my God, more dead than 9/11. Well, yeah, it's like 4,000, okay? Not a big deal. Come on. And then another sidebar that's just loaded with this crazy stuff. The cabal, of course, has to kick in by lighting up the Great Pyramid in Egypt with an all-seeing eye type of green light at the top, except instead of the all-seeing eye, it says, stay home, which is actually a tongue-in-cheek joke, really, where like
go
they're
back.
saying that's what the all-seeing eye is telling you to stay home. They want you to stay home indefinitely so they can collapse the economy and
Stay
get the world
home.
order, which is not
Stay
gonna work.
home.
But again, here they are actually screwing around with the Great Pyramid, showing you the all-seeing eye and all this beam of light going up there. Or the equivalent of where the all-seeing eye is, at least. Now, oh my God, 240,000 dead. That's still less than 1%. Yeah, it sucks, and we're going to have to expand and have emergency hospitals because these idiots did try to kill everybody on the planet. It's just lots and lots of crazy headlines like this.
Ashes
And then you
to
got stuff
ashes,
like
dust
this
to
where they're
dust.
Saying, okay, it's still nowhere
People
near
die
as bad
every
as
day.
cancer or heart disease,
How
but
bad
it's
is
now
this?
In third place. Fair enough, but it goes away quickly. That's what you got to remember. So this is now getting right up to the present. All the headlines right up until the time that we're on.
Let's not
right
talk
now.
about potential cases
And
of
they're
what
again
could
saying
happen.
that
Let's
the
actually
deficits
let's
could go
deal
back
with
to
the
World War II
facts.
levels.
Who's died?
Everybody is
from
super
it?
mad at celebrities right
And
now.
what portion of
because
the
we're in these
population?
wonderful houses, and they're acting like
And
it sucks.
how many people are dying
No,
every
enjoy
day?
your house. So now's not a good time for celebrities. And then they got stuff like this. Oh, well, you know, the idea that Wuhan is positive, it's not very comforting. It's all trying to make you think it's still
Am I ever
bad,
gonna
even though
wake up?
nobody's actually got the virus anymore. They're just trying to make it look bad. And then all this stuff about mass graves. Well, yeah, they probably do need some. But then when that has to be dug, they make a huge deal out of it. But again, it's a very small percentage compared to the whole population. Now, this is some really great hero-making speech that QAnon has given us, and I want to read it to you so they have a voice. And then right after that, we're launching directly into your questions. But you got to hear this. This is really cool, okay? This is what QAnon had to say about the whole thing. A person's value. Number one, to vote. Number two, their monetary value or tax contribution. Number three, and then they leave that one blank. Why is free thought being ridiculed, challenged, and
Here's my problem with QAnon. They're hiding behind a letter. So we don't know who is a part of this organization, who isn't. It's much like a super PAC, really, when you donate, you know, those super PACs. It's kind of like that. It's like it, okay? I'm stretching. Here's the deal. Put a face to the name, and then it has a little bit more potency. It's a group that's attached its whole persona on a letter. Q. Okay, well I'm T. I'm T. T and on. T in space. But I got my face attached to it, right? It's about trust. People could die. Okay. If they are known, apparently, these if they know. See, the thing is that most of the people that know that they're part of the problem too, right? So they hide behind a letter. Is that right? I'm not making any friends here, but is that right? So, what do you know? How much can you trust? Well, you can't trust anything, really. So what can you trust? Well, the only thing that you could do is trust yourself. Okay, so why aren't people thinking for themselves? Listening to these things, listening to alternative media, and trying to piece it together for themselves. If we do that and we read between the lines, then we'll get there. That's my humble opinion on QAnon. Take it away, David.
Threatened when a person is opposed to the mainstream narrative. Number two, i.e. value, a person's financial value remains fixed to the degree allowable by economic recession or expansion. Number one, the person's vote does remain a variable. You can change how people vote. Number one is dependent on a controlled system of information dissemination. What happens when 90% of the media is controlled and owned by only 6 corporations, which we know is true? What happens when those same corporations are operated and controlled by a political ideology? And there's plenty of whistleblower data proving that that's true. Project Veritas, James O'Keefe are doing an amazing job. Lots of whistleblowers coming forward saying they are trying to rig this in favor of the Democrats. Absolutely. What happens when the news is no longer free from bias? What happens when the news is no longer reliable and independent? What happens when the news is no longer trustworthy? What happens when the news simply becomes an extension or arm of a political party? Well, if it's my party, I don't care. Well, yeah, you should. You actually should. Fact becomes fiction. Fiction becomes fact. When does news become propaganda? Well, this has already happened. Identity creation? How does the average person who is under constant financial stress by design find the time to research and discern fact versus fiction? Well, it's very difficult to do that. I spend my whole day looking at this stuff. The majority of people are more prone to believe someone in power sitting behind a big brand news name? Yes. Do people in their human psyches tend to follow the majority mainstream viewpoint in the fear of being isolated and or shunned? Yes. Mainstream is used for a reason, to dominate the trends in people's opinions. If the majority of people believe X, then X must be true, and it must be validated. Why do these mainstream media heads within different organizations always use the same keywords or catchphrases? Is it coordinated, and by who? Is there an outside entity providing them with instructions? Yes, that's the deep state.
Yeah, we gotta flatten the curve.
Do they count on the fact that people in their human psyche are more prone to believe something if they hear it over and over again by these so-called trusted sources?
Flatten
yes,
the curve.
That's true. Do these echo chamber tactics provide validation and credibility to the
We must
topic that is being
impeach.
discussed? For a lot of people, it does. Is this a threat to our intellectual freedom? Absolutely. They are censoring all dissenting opinions. You cannot talk about the opposing side on the internet. They will shadow ban you. They will delete you. They will take down your channel. They will attack you. You cannot do it.
Really?
Would control over these institutions and organizations allow for
What
the
if you
mass
attack
control of the
all
population's
organizations?
viewpoint
What happens
regarding
then?
the desired topic? I guess that's topic. That's a cue blooper there. Read again and digest. Would control over these institutions or organizations allow for the mass control of a population's viewpoint regarding a desired topic? There, it's spelled right. That might have been my fault, actually. I don't know. Logical thinking, folks. Just use your logical thinking. The control over these institutions
Common
does
sense.
allow for them to control how the population thinks. Why, after the election of 2016, did Democrats and media corporations jumpstart a
Neuro-linguistic
coordinated and planned
programming.
divisive blitz intended to create falsehoods regarding
Both
the
sides.
legitimacy of the election, the character
They use it
assassination
over
of
and
POTUS,
over again.
to sexism, racism, every other ism, before and after the 2016 election? Why were violent masked terror organizations such as Antifa immediately created and funded, which we know was done by Soros? They've said that many times. Why were these organizations tasked with immediate intimidation and shutdown of any pro-POTUS rallies or events?
They're
Well,
moving the
you
dinosaur.
support people
or the
being able to be
Ogopogo.
free in America.
They're-
That shouldn't
they have
be
a
happening.
crane.
You should be able to go to a political rally even if
It's
you don't
suspended
like
right
what
now.
those people are talking about. You shouldn't have them be threatened.
This
Why
is
were
a
these
big,
marches
this is
immediately
a
organized to
complicated
counter and
move.
silence pro-POTUS rallies and/or events?
Very fun.
Why were the marches immediately organized, which divided people into sex and gender, race, and other isms? When you control the levers of news dissemination, like they're doing with this virus, you control the narrative. Controlling the narrative equals power. See, this is a really big Q drop they just did. When you are blind, what do you see? You only see what they want you to see. They want you divided. Divided by religion. Divided by sex. Divided by your political affiliation.
That's true.
Divided by your class.
Yep.
When you are divided and angry and controlled, you target those who are different from you, not those who are responsible, i.e. the controllers. Divided, you are weak. Divided, you pose no threat to their control. When non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control the narrative and or stable, where they keep us like sheep or livestock.
Trump does this too.
When you are
Also,
awake, you stand on the
he
outside
divides
of the
people.
stable in
He's
the
a
groupthink
divider. So
collective. And now you have free
this is
thought.
where I veer.
Free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that
from-
positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism, rather than authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma. So, yeah, you got to reason it out, use logic, and actually deal in facts. This represents a clear and present danger to the constitutional republic
Just the facts,
of the
man.
United States of America.
Just the
And
facts.
then this epic missive goes on with what this particular Q website gave the title of, When You Are Awake, You Are Able to Clearly See. And there's 3 of these posts, so this is the second one. Decide for yourself. Be free from outside opinion. Decide for yourself. Be objective in your conclusions. Decide for yourself. Be true in your own beliefs.
Decide for
Decide
yourself.
for yourself. Be
This
open
is all good
to
advice.
following the facts.
Decide for yourself.
Be strong in defending your beliefs.
Yeah.
Decide for yourself. Be resistant to blindly accepting factless statements. Those who
Be a
attack you,
lamp unto yourself.
those who mock you, those who call you, and they're definitely speaking about this virus now, those who control you, those who label you, do they actually represent you, or do they represent themselves in some form? This
Usually
is how
themselves,
they are
right?
creating mental enslavement. The Great Awakening, or freedom
Everybody's
of
doing
thought,
it to each other.
was designed and created not only as a back channel to the public, and now they're talking about the Q post. That's what they're calling the Great Awakening. This was designed and created not only as a back channel to the public, away from the long-standing mind control of the corrupt, heavily biased media, to endure future events through transparency and regeneration of individual thought, thereby breaking the chains of groupthink. So this is great. They're getting the information out in a clear channel, but more importantly, this was done to aid in the construction of a vehicle or a ship that provides these scattered free thinkers with a starter new social networking platform. That would be 8kun, now backed up on the Department of Defense's own web server, which allows for freedom of thought, expression, and patriotism or national pride, the feeling of love, devotion, and sense of attachment to a homeland, and an alliance with other citizens who share the same sentiment. They're not letting you do that with big tech. They are deleting everybody who even tries to have other than their enforced viewpoint. When non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control the narrative and or the stable, i.e. the farm animal analogy. When you are awake, you stand on the outside of the stable, the groupthink collective. You're not a sheep, and you have free thought. Free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism, rather than authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma. When you are awake, you are able to clearly see. The choice is yours and yours alone. Trust and put faith in yourself. You are not alone, and you are not in the minority. Now check this out, folks. Difficult truths will soon see the light of day. Where we go one, we go all. So there you go. Once again, even though they don't give us a whole lot, right? They did just say difficult truths will soon see the light of day. Remember in other shows I'm saying the enormity of what is coming will shock the world. That was another statement they made. And they keep saying it's going to be biblical. Well, now we know 3 days of darkness, turning off the phone and the internet, would be a kind of biblical event. So one of the questions that we're going to have here in a moment is, well, David, when do you think the 3 days are going to be? I don't have any intel about that I could say.
So here's
for
another
sure,
problem I got
but
with
I did get a dream this morning, and the dream...
this is that it's going to become biblical. Um, Humanity's been under the um, power, control of entities like church for a very long time. And now, if you want to find biblical prophetic things coming to life, you'll find them. Because you'll be able to equate a number of different events to the biblical passages that you're pointing to in the Bible, i.e., Revelations, Ecclesiastes, Isaiah. Ecclesiastes? Isaiah. And other books that proclaim prophetic truths. And this is how the church maintains its authority. So you got two sides of the church, eh? You got the Catholic Church, like if we're talking about Christianity, just specifically, you got Christianity in the guise of Catholicism, and then you got Christianity in the guise of evangelicalism. Is that right? So, normally, you have two sides of a coin when you look at pretty much everything. Like government, two sides, liberal, conservative, right? You look deeper into it. Like you go even more specific, there's always two sides. So it's like when the one side outweighs the other side, that's the problem. And you're not using, when it does outweigh, one of them outweighs the other, then you're not using what is called, what? Spirit? Spirit, the unnameable energy source, whatever. What are we talking about? So these are the things that we gotta focus on. When we focus on ourselves using our own intuition is attached to this thing called source, but even the fact that I named it source means that I don't know anything about it, so don't trust me. But it exists. It's the thing that holds everything together. This is where I have a bit of a difficulty with these types of presentations, although it's, this is all very good information, I think. Thank you, David. But remember, he's talking about dualism. I think he's talking about, I don't know what he's talking about right now. I'm talking about dualism. And I believe he is talking about it too. And how people want to pit each other against each other. And this is true. This is absolutely fact. You see it all the time. But see, if you choose one side, you say, well, those guys are doing it, but we're not doing it. Well, you'd be lying because we just saw you. You're a hypocrite. And you know what? Hypocrites aren't hip with it. As far as the last time I researched, they weren't. I research. Sure, I research. Anyways, take it away, David.
Was where I actually saw the open tomb. It looked like probably a scene of Jesus' tomb, right? And I had to go up to the tomb. I had gone through these other things where I had to enter into previous tombs. It was this whole long initiation I went through in the dream. But I was going up to this tomb, and I had to make sure that all the booby traps were removed before I could actually enter into this tomb. There was a big big door in a cave in the wall. So one of the things was there was a step that was gold colored, and I couldn't step on the gold or else it was going to set off a booby trap. So I had to avoid that. Well, I went through a few of these traps, and I thought I had it, and then
David
I walked
said
up to
booby.
the door, and out comes this woman who is screaming like she's possessed by the devil, She's screaming like a banshee. She's got black hair parted down the middle, goes down like this. She's wearing a weird white gown, and she's just all crazy and screaming. Ah! And I had to like totally back up. I had to back all the way down the stairs, get the hell out of her way. And after she ran off, only then did it look like I was going to be able to go into the cave. So based on, and normally I don't like to make a prophecy off of one dream. I typically get 3, okay? But I haven't had any other dreams like this, so I'm just moving forward to share it with you. My guess is that the screaming woman that comes out of the cave means there's one more big crazy thing that we're going to go through first, the last little defensive move from the deep state. It's going to be some version of this lady screaming like a ghost before we get the 3 days, okay? Because the 3 days were what Jesus spent inside the cave before the resurrection. So this dream appeared to be telling me it's not going to happen immediately, and there's going to be one more really weird, crazy, upsetting thing, or maybe a cluster of them. I don't know what the woman really represents. That's the best intel I have. So before we get to all your other questions, I want to read you the last bit of this 3-part Q thing, because I think this is an award-winning speech. But again, they said, difficult truths will soon see the light of day. I am going to try to keep this one to 2.5 hours, by the way, so just hang in there.
No, you're not.
This is about
It's going to be
saving
3
America.
hours and 22
Okay?
minutes, 27 seconds.
The entire world is watching.
So,
Patriots around the world
never put a
are
time on
praying
it,
for
David.
America, because we have
Why
a
do
big
you put a
problem here
time
that we're
on
trying
it?
to
Just
cleanse.
go,
We are all
Do.
bound by a feeling deep inside, a
David.
feeling that cannot be publicly expressed for fear of ridicule up until now. A
That's
feeling
probably
that
true.
challenges the mainstream narrative against that which we were told to accept and dare not question. Put simply, that people are being abused by those in power and time is running out. And that's true. The longer we wait to do this, the more difficult it will be to defeat these people. Remember the
How about we
battles
start
of
now?
Lexicon. Oh yeah, I can speak.
By not dealing with
Remember the
their...
battles of Lexington and Concord. Give me liberty or give me death. For far too long, we have been silent, and we have allowed our bands of strength that we once formed
Dealing
to
with their
defend
what?
freedom and liberty to deteriorate. We became divided. We became weak. We elected traitors to govern us. We allowed evil to prey on us.
Yep.
Those who have claimed to represent
Still do.
us gave us false hope and made false promises. The evil and corruption only grew. This is more than party politics. This is about restoring us to old glory. This is about saving our land and our people from those who wish
We don't
us
want to go
harm.
back to old glory,
This is
though.
about
This is
preserving our
another
republic. This is about preserving our...
old glory. This is more than party politics. Agreed. This is about restoring old glory. What's that? Old glory. You remember old glory? Let's find out. Let's see some images of old glory. Old glory. What does that mean? Old glory. America, America. Not sure we want to go back to this. Right? Old glory. Old glory, eh? This is what we want to go back to? That right there? Well, how about when we make these incredible changes, we don't go back to the old shit? That's all I gotta say about that.
our safety. This is about restoring our strength. This is about life, liberty,
Preserving
and
our
pursuit of
republic.
happiness. This is about protecting our children. This is about saving America.
Saving
We are
America.
all God's children. We are fathers.
See, this is
We
another
are
problem.
We are daughters.
Okay? And you hear it.
speaking
You
now about
hear
the
it. You hear it coming out of Donald Trump's mouth all the time. America. America first. America, 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 America. Let's make America great again. Let's continue to make America great. Let's wear a red hat and wave our flag and show the world that we are the beacon of hope and the answer to all the world's ills. This is a problem. Right? Please see it. Because not many people do. David doesn't. I don't know if he does. I think he's buying into the QAnon thing. A group that has reached out to him specifically because he has a following. And David is a smart individual. You know, clever. Very clever. And he's got a heart. But we can all be manipulated. And I think QAnon is just the other side of the fucking coin. It's like the pot calling the kettle black. You know? It's like the pot calling the kettle black. No, that wasn't racist. It's a saying. Fuck you. There's no one there. There's no one there. I got a lot to say. I think that's it. Take it away, David.
Alliance and everybody else. We are sons, we are brothers,
Yes.
and we are sisters. We do not look at race. We do not look at skin color. We are united in these states of America. We are and always will be patriots, and we must rise again. We must unite again. We must fight again. So there is going to be a fight. This is not going to be easy once they release all this information. For God and country.
Hey, do you remember when in Star Trek Next Generation, Q appeared for the first time? And what a dick he was. Like, he was a god, right? Q was a god. And he came and he's messing with the Enterprise, you know, messing with their minds, just messing around like any god would, right? If they have the power to do it, because they're bored. All right? QAnon. The Q. Have you ever listened to the Q? Q107 in Vancouver. So it's station. A lot of people listen to it. I never did. I did a little bit, but not much. What were we talking about? QAnon. People that have information that are hiding behind something other than who they are. Got a real problem with this. But go on, QAnon. Tell us what's important. Because we got a lot of people telling us what's important, and we'd like to hear from you as well.
God bless America.
God bless America.
Where we go one, we go all.
All for one, all for all. No, that's not the saying. All for one.
To that point, so you don't have to drink the haterade, everybody.
Just all for one, right?
We're good.
One for
I
all.
wasn't going to steer you wrong. You asked questions, we're answering them. So first of all, I want to talk about this idea that the ability to manipulate mass consciousness through the media is how the cabal defines black magic. This is a form of sorcery, using the media to promote falsehoods, to promote lies, to promote only one political party. And again, if you identify with the Democrats, you should still be concerned that the people on the other side are being completely stopped.
Don't identify with any political party.
Don't feel good about that.
Don't identify with them.
My team's winning, man. No. It's like There's something really freaking scary.
Don't be
if
on
you're
the
having
team.
an electoral process. And only
Elect
one
not
side
to
gets
be on
speak,
that
and the other side is
those
being
two
aggressively
teams.
censored by big tech and big media. Okay? Well, but I can't stand his mouth. He's got a big effing mouth, and he says all this stuff, and I'm so offended. The alliance is a lot bigger than one guy.
Okay.
The deep state wants you to be angry at one guy because that's simple, that's easy. You can wrap your head around that. You can't wrap your head around a whole bunch of countries all over the world all collaborating together on something that nobody knows yet because it's still secret. Unless you go and you look at sources like QAnon, which is clearly proven that it's coming from the U.S. administration.
You seem
have
to
be
be
a total idiot not to see that QAnon is the U.S. presidential
rallying
administration. They're making
behind.
it so obvious, and I don't mean to insult you. I'm sorry if I called you an idiot, okay? But it's really
Don't worry
easy to
about it.
figure
Everybody
out.
does.
They've done so many things that are so easy to figure out. And all I want to know is, when are you guys going to say that you were responsible for this? When do we get the truth? Well, it appears that it happens very soon, okay? So, this is the big question. We have had so many versions of this question. Oh my God. How does 5G fit into everything that is happening right now? Isn't 5G more of our concern than the coronavirus? And is this all a big distraction so they could roll out 5G during the 3 days?
Roll
Okay.
out the barrel.
Whoa.
We'll
whoa.
have a
All right.
barrel of fun.
Full confession. When I was with Pete Peterson and we were working together, I met the guys who were allowed to bring out 5G. They lived in Idaho. They were the people who were authorized to bring this thing out. At the time, the original version of 5G was called Air Fiber. And I met them, I would say, maybe in 2010, 2011. Back then, I was really excited about it because I saw a speed test that they did of not even a full version of the system, but a less version of the system, and it was 100 megabits per second. And I said, wow, that's really fast. Now, they were telling me about how it works, and I had a briefing with them. I was sitting in the room with them as they were telling me about this, that it was going to go over millimeter wave, which is not even regulated at the time, wasn't regulated by the FCC, very high-speed frequency. Now, I asked these guys, if you're going to roll out something like this, you have to have the health considerations kept in mind. Is this thing dangerous to biological life? They told me no. And I asked them, well, you need the proof. If you're going to come out with this thing, you got to tell people scientific proof. You got to have studies that show that it has been tested and that it's safe. Now, they didn't have that information, but they said that it was. They also let me know, in a roundabout way, that this was already something they had on the
Well, if they
inside, and they were
said
being kind
it
of more or less
was,
allowed to bring it out.
then it must be
So,
safe.
I heard all this way back when, and now the 5G is coming out. Now, there have been a number of things that have been released into the public consciousness very recently, including recordings. There's one recording of a guy who has some kind of a English accent, I believe.
Well,
he
Simon
doesn't say
Banks.
his name.
Simon
He
Banks.
said he worked for Vodafone, but he doesn't give a whole lot of information. And then he immediately goes into this whole
not Simon
elaborate,
Banks.
wild conspiracy theory about 5G. Now, I'm not trying to throw shade on this guy. Maybe he's real, okay? But it sounds too good, okay? Because what is he saying? He's saying that the real reason why people are dying from the alleged coronavirus is because they're turning on 5G. And he's saying, oh, Wuhan got outfitted with 5G and they turned it on, and that's why everybody's dying. Well, wait a minute. If that's true, then why have all the cases dropped off? In other words, if 5G
that's
is what
not
is
true.
causing this,
I don't think that's true.
how did the epidemiologist who
That doesn't
won
sound-
the 2013 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, Michael Levitt, how was he able
Sounds
to
like
calculate
someone
the number of coronavirus deaths
Saw a connection
down to
and
5?
then drew a whole bunch of
How
lines.
did he do that? And why is it following all the standard
To
curves
dots that
of
didn't
a
exist?
pandemic? Because it's not 5G, okay? And this is just, again, logic. It's simple logic, so you have to understand.
Hey, the faster
deep
the
state
internet
loves,
is, the
and I don't know if
better
that's what this
it
guy
is for
and maybe
everybody.
there's something to the 5G
The faster
thing.
we
I'm
can get
not saying there
information.
isn't, okay? But I always look deeper. I always ask questions. I'm not content with the official explanation. And I'm always suspicious when somebody just pops up and they sound really smooth, but they're trying to pivot everybody away from coronavirus. So
Pivot.
5G could be a way in this case to get people's
You need a
attention
good pivot.
away from the coronavirus now that the deep state knows that it's going to be exposed as actually being man-made, highly contagious, and it's definitely real. Is it possible that 5G could piggyback on this virus to make it worse? Yes, that's possible. I'm not saying it isn't. So to get to the root of this question, I want to really emphasize something here, which I think is very important. Okay?
Root it out, David.
When we're talking about these higher dimensional beings, when we're talking about extraterrestrial guidance, extraterrestrial contact, like what I've gotten by reading The Law of One, studying it, living with the people that did it for 2 years, okay? What you find out is that there are different levels of these angelic planetary saving beings, okay? You got fourth density, which is, you know, pretty similar to us, but they're still very advanced. They still have levitation, telekinesis. And there's a question in here about density versus dimension, so we'll get into that in a minute. But then you have a whole other dimensional level that you can make of a quantum leap after that, which is fifth density. And at this point, they still have something like a body. But now they do not necessarily require craft to travel. They could travel by thought alone, okay? And apparently at that level, they actually manifest their own food, which is a liquid nectar that they manifest and drink made of pure light. A liquid light broth, which must taste really great. If that's all they're going to have, it must be awesome. That's all I can say. Then when you go up to sixth density, you have beings that are the equivalent, in the Law of One it says they're the equivalent of a whole planet worth of people like us that have merged into a single collective consciousness. That's really amazing. So if you have something of that magnitude, if you have beings that have formed a global, like a whole planet worth of people like Earth, but they're one mind, that's a very, very advanced race, and it's not like the Borg. They're actually very harmonious in this case. But the point being, okay, that at that level they exist as what are called guardians, and they guard over entire planets. The only level higher than that is seventh density, which is the last level you get to before you go back to the one infinite creator at the octave level, or eighth density. Seventh density beings don't work with us directly. They create a living repository of the wisdom they gathered, which is like the internet, and then they leave it behind when they go back to the octave, and they only consult with sixth density beings. So sixth density beings in the Law of One system are
Seven
the
of
highest level
diamonds.
beings who interact with us. They do not have bodies unless they choose to project themselves into a body. Now in the Law of One series, the source said that they were at sixth density, but they had to downshift back into fifth density in order to help out our planet in these last days. And they also say that they are heavily identified with the hawk, and that this was what they chose their appearance to be. So this is where you get into Horus and the idea of hawk-headed beings that are depicted in the Egyptian murals going back, which probably is now 12,000, 13,000 years ago,
We'll
to
have
Zep Tepi,
a
or the first
barrel
time
of
in Egypt.
fun.
So these blue avians that Corey Good was seeing are not new. William Henry was the one who brought this out. I didn't even know this, but William Henry found paintings on the frescoes in these Egyptian tombs of Horus where he had a blue skin, or blue feathers, I guess. So there's a lot of cool stuff about that, but the point is, I do believe, because of all the years that I'd studied the Law of One, because I lived with the people who did it, that when Corey Good came along,
Never
we
read
got
it.
contacted by this group. Do we know
Law of One?
whether this was physical in-person
Sounds
contact,
interesting.
or whether it was something
I'm gonna make a
telepathic
note of
in
it.
his mind? No, we don't. But it's very interesting information, and it's added a lot
Law
of
of
questions.
One.
It's answered a lot of questions as well. So, I want to get back to what does it say in the Law of One about life on Earth. It says that we are totally protected. Nothing will happen that will disturb the so-called ascension or harvest, okay? They will not allow a nuclear war. They will not allow anything on Earth that's going to cause a mass death. So the beings themselves will not allow a pandemic to occur. And there's a great deal of evidence for this. There's all these reports of cigar-shaped or other types of UFOs appearing over nuclear missile installations, powering down the entire installation, and in many cases actually rendering the warheads themselves radioactively inert. This is a widespread observation of how extraterrestrials or alleged extraterrestrials, whatever those craft are, it's something, okay? It's not our normal stuff. They're powering down the nukes. This has happened to China. This has happened to Russia. This has happened to India. It's happened to Pakistan.
Powering it down,
Everybody who's got nukes has
guys.
had this
You're
happen
out of
to them in the
control.
US. Everybody. Now, we've heard about the planet-killing financial
Humans.
collapse. We've heard about that the cabal wants to herd everybody into FEMA camps, right? I've been saying all along that stuff is never going to happen because these positive beings are like letting us play in the sandbox, and we can create some disruption in the sandbox. We can throw some sand around, metaphorically speaking, and of course some of that sand does involve people dying, but they're not going to allow the whole planet to be wiped out. Therefore, the cabal has consistently discovered that whenever they try to make this stuff happen, whenever they try to kill lots of people, it can't work. I heard from Illuminati insiders that they've tried multiple times to create viruses that would kill all life on Earth.
Can't do
and
it.
they're frustrated because it just doesn't work. So even with COVID-19, if you believe that it's
The
artificially
Earth's too
constructed,
smart.
they got the contagion really well. They got that part done, but they couldn't get the lethality, okay? So this is reaching
Because it
point,
works as
okay?
one.
People get all freaked out about chemtrails. Oh my God, the chemtrails. They get all freaked out about 5G. Oh my God, 5G. Is it possible that 5G, if theoretically, if the deep state were theoretically allowed to use it the way they wanted to,
Right.
is it possible that 5G could be designed to cause a great deal of trouble? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I've had other insiders tell me that the millimeter wave bandwidth has been used for a long time in covert military projects, including projects that influence people's thoughts and how they behave. Okay, that's true. But once again, the cabal will find out this time, just like
my
they have
God.
every other time, that if they try to use something like this, when they try to flip the switch, it simply won't frickin' work. Why? Because whether you want to believe this or not, there are powerful and wonderful angelic beings, okay, that are behind all the world's leading spiritual traditions and religions. They have been trying to get us to be more loving, to love each other. They're not going to let these idiots destroy the planet. They simply will not allow it
Can't
to
do
happen.
it.
So the deep state will keep
Can't
petitioning,
allow it to
Can
happen.
we try this, you guys? Can we try to nuke everybody? Nope. Can we try to create a debilitating global financial collapse where everybody descends into chaos and starvation and anarchy and rioting and looting and cannibalism? It's never happened up until now. It's not going to happen now, okay? This is not killing very many people. Society's going to come back on. The lights are going to come back on. And it's very likely that we're getting this amazing global economic reset, arresting of deep state perpetrators.
Well, that
We
would
look
be
at how
nice.
confident Q
A
is.
global
They say
reset.
very disturbing truths are about to come to light.
Let's do it right, though, eh?
You're
Let's
gonna wanna
reset
put
right.
the truth back in the bottle. You're not going to want to know the truth, but we need to go through this. As I've said so many times, if you throw up, you'll feel better.
Let's not
We
go
need
back
have
to
a
coal.
collective vomiting. Oh my God, it's horrible. Oh my God, the information. I don't want to know. Well, you got to know. We got to get through this together. So I'm not worried about this. I'm not worried about 5G. I'm not worried that they could turn it on, because if they try, it's not going to succeed. And there's so many examples of this divine intervention stuff. For example, I got a number of briefings from Pete Peterson on stuff like this going back to 2010, okay? You had cases where Israeli intelligence had determined that
You guys want some
Pakistanis
toast?
were going to invade Israel, and they were waiting in an ambush. And literally, you have both sides, and they're trying to fire their guns, and the guns won't fire. They can't even pull the sword out of the sheath because some kind of beam was beamed into them where the metal expanded, and they couldn't make these things work. And then when you turn the beam off, it works again. These hardened warriors, apparently this happened 3 times. 3 different times they tried to have this little war. These hardened warriors got down on their knees, looked up at the sky, and cried because God was intervening. What they thought was God was intervening, so they couldn't fight this war. Okay? Another example, you had covert missions that were going to bomb Syria. They couldn't get the bomb bay doors to open. The payload door wouldn't open. They had jets that they tried to fire up. The jets won't start. They had tanks they tried to fire up. The tanks won't start. This happened over and over again. Another example of what they actually tried to do that didn't work is they wanted to do another Gulf oil spill disaster. Remember when that rig blew up and it all emptied out into the Gulf of Mexico? All this black oil, this horrible crap. And everybody thought it was the end of the world, and the media was like, oh my God, we're all going to die. That's it, right? And it all got cleaned up. Well, they were going to do another one of those in the Persian Gulf. And there was a covert team of guys that work underwater. They have scuba gear, and they have backpacks on. And in the backpack, with one of the operatives, was an explosive. They were going to blow up this oil well in the Persian Gulf, and they were going to create another Gulf oil spill in the Persian Gulf. Now, these guys were trying to swim into the rig. They were going to do it all underwater, undetected. They were going to plant the explosive, get the hell out of there, blow it up, and create this disaster. What happened is, and we got this from more than one independent source, they hit a wall in the ocean. They hit an energetic wall, and they couldn't get through the wall. They couldn't penetrate this energetic barrier. They tried to go over it. They tried to actually go up over it like a dolphin jumping. They couldn't go up over it. They tried to go underneath it. They couldn't go underneath it. It wasn't visible. There was no
Gotta
visible
go
anything,
through it.
but if you tried to swing
Can't go
into the
under
wall,
it. Can't
it
go
would
around
stretch,
it.
and then it would eventually push you
Can't
back. It was
go
like
over
elastic, okay?
Gotta go through it.
The operatives literally tried to penetrate this defense for 12 hours, and they couldn't get through, and they eventually abandoned the mission. Now, I have heard of so many examples. Every time the deep state tries to do something that's out of bounds, they're not allowed to do it. It is forbidden. It is not permitted. And it kind of amazes me that they don't realize that they're only allowed to do what they're allowed to do. But they keep trying and trying and trying and trying. So I find it very interesting.
That's pride, my
that
friend.
they were allowed to do COVID-19. They were allowed to do this. But look at what's happening. It's really not that big of a deal. Less than 1% of people are dying worldwide right now. Maybe it'll go up to 1%. That's still not a whole lot. It's mostly people who had advanced age and advanced health problems anyway, which is sad, but still, most people are not going to be affected by this. And what do? You get to be at home. You get to have some time off. The IRS has now delayed when you have to file your taxes to July 15th. That's official information.
The
So you have
IRS
some
will
time
not
off, you can relax,
exist.
you can chill out, and you have time to meditate. You have
In the
time
end.
to talk to your family, to read books, to watch videos like this. It's
a good thing.
actually a great opportunity.
It's a good
For
opportunity, I
solitude,
agree.
for rest, for all these cool things. So, I do not believe that if they do have the ability to make 5G wipe us out, that if they tried to use it, that they would be allowed to use it for the same reasons of all the other things that I said. So I really don't think that the coronavirus is caused by 5G. I do think it's a virus. They don't want you to see that they spent probably $40 billion developing this thing. So they're putting out a lot of other, chaff and distraction. But again, it's not the end of the world. They're not going to kill you off. We're all going to get through this, and there's going to be an amazing, great awakening. So let's go on with the next question now. Are the 3 days of darkness going to occur globally as well as with the arrests, or are they just in the U.S.? Okay, great question. It is my understanding, and I'll preface it with that very dodgy, politically worded statement, it is my understanding that this is worldwide. I don't know for sure, but it sure sounds like it, because apparently they got to shut the whole internet off to clip out certain nodes.
Well, the corruption's
in which data is
worldwide,
flowing
so
through,
it would
and the
have
deep
to
state
be
is able to
worldwide,
harness
wouldn't
that
it?
data and use it for mass surveillance and killing
But-
people. So the alliance is going to literally edit
Couldn't
out
you do it without
all
turning
the
it off?
suckage points
Just-
where the deep state could suck in that data and use it to
So
continue
we just
to
allow
advance
another
their agenda.
government
Therefore,
body to.
once the internet comes back on,
Fair enough.
it has been essentially debugged. It has been
Then we'll deal with the
deloused.
other problems
It's
later.
had a parasite cleanse, and all of the deep state crap is gone, and they can't surveil us anymore. They've lost the keys to the car. So that's going to involve very likely a worldwide internet shutdown.
Fair
They
enough.
Have to. I don't know if the phone and stuff is also going to go down around the world. It's
Who knows? Who
definitely
knows?
going to be in the U.S., and it's almost certainly going to be in Europe.
My
as well.
sources have
There's
been
already
telling
reports
me.
right now,
Well, they've
if they
been
didn't have
keeping
time
pretty
to do
much
this show,
silent
we'll do
on
the
it,
next
which
one.
means that
There's already reports right now
something's
about how Britain is getting ready,
up.
is telling people, get ready, you might have to have power out and your internet out. So I think this is really going to be a big deal. The arrests are not just going to happen in the U.S. Defender Europe 20 has 38,000 troops all over Europe, and they are going to be grabbing people very likely out of the Vatican, very likely out of some of the financial centers, and
Did
some
you
of
know the
the
Vatican
geopolitical
is
centers. Without
a
getting into too
country?
much detail, I'm amazed that they allowed me to give you this briefing because I
It's
figured
incredible. The
it would ruin
Vatican's
the
a
element of
country.
surprise. But apparently they don't think these
They
guys
have a
have
lot
anywhere
of
to
money.
go, even if they know once the phones and the internet go down that they're screwed. They don't have anywhere they can go. They're all being monitored. And I just actually had one of my insiders tell me just the other day, if you get this assassination from a high level, it's going to be your best friend who kills you. Your best friend. That's
You
how
wonder
deeply
why,
these agents work. They get embedded into your life, become your best friend, and then they try to kill you. So what we've heard is that many of these deep state people don't realize that their top
I'll get back to that
advisors,
thought
the
later.
people closest to them, are the ones that are going to be betraying them when this thing happens, and they're playing an amazing game. Sadly, some of these people are having to go through with the satanic rituals, go through with the baby eating, blood drinking. They're having to play along and do all that stuff, knowing that they're going to be pulling the plug on their bosses anyway. That is a horrific mission. Thank God I didn't have to do that. Anyway, next slide. So we have many,
Yeah.
many questions on the 3 days. What is going to happen? Why is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Where is it going to happen? Okay, please, again, I am not an elected official. I don't want to be an elected official. If I was forced to do something in government, I probably would if it was a great offer and if everybody wants me to do it, but I don't really want to do it, okay? If the world gets nicer, maybe, okay? But it would have to be a heck of a lot nicer than it is now. What Donald Trump is doing is amazing. To be able to handle that much hatred, it's a big, big weight on you and your family. Not one that I'd really want to take. So, I don't really know what's going on. I don't have very many briefings. We did hear, however, that we're going to get a lot more briefings very soon.
This guy's
Briefings are
very
gonna come back,
pro-Trump,
and I'm really
and
excited about that.
it's a little
I'm
unnerving.
really excited about the 3 days.
I understand. See,
I think, one of the things that QAnon said is that
Here, bud,
75%...
hold on. I understand that in history, and well, just in history, where really shitty kings were in charge. This is history from scriptural, texts, ancient texts, where God puts these really horrible kings in place, but it's for a reason, right? Okay, that's fine, but let's not idolize those that are in charge currently, that are apparently a part of the alliance, part of the good guys. Let's not paint them as good guys just yet. Okay? Maybe they were an instrument in ushering in a new thing. Maybe. But let's not be too quick in blowing the horn for people like Donald Trump, who obviously has some huge, deep-seated pride problems and ego attachment. Is that English? Did we... It's important. It's important for us not to hold these leaders up so high. It's super important for us to think for ourselves, which is already what David was saying before, right? David. I call him David. He's a friend of mine. Dave sometimes. I call him Dave sometimes. No, I've never met him. we can't always be 100% accurate. So you gotta give this guy a little bit of slack and a bit of credit for all the research that he's done throughout his life and followed his own convictions, thinking for himself for the most part, right? And then aligning himself with people that he feels are trustworthy, and so on and so on and so on. So that's much more than most people do. But there again, David and myself and you can be wrong. And the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and the whole team, Mike Pence, Pompeo, Mitch McConnell, to name a few. People like Brett Kavanaugh, and they're part of the problem too. You can't always point the finger at Nancy Pelosi. That's pretty easy, you know? Or Chuck Schumer, right? You can always point the fingers, but remember what Jesus said? He said something about a plank in someone's eye. You're so concerned with the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye, but you don't even see the plank in your own eye. Like there's a plank in your eye, and you're looking at the speck in your brother's eye or your sister's eye. So take it away, David.
Of the sealed indictments, roughly speaking, were in the media. Some people are horrified when I said that, but bear in mind the media is using black magic and sorcery to manipulate our opinions. They've lied to us about so many things, and it's about time that we see some justice happen in the world. So I'm sure that when you find out about what these indictments are, that it's all going to make sense. It's all going to be very legal. It is not renditioning. It is not people being abducted in the night and secreted away and you never hear about it. This is going to be public trials. You're going to hear what the charges are, and you're going to get to see what's going on. And probably some of the footage that they're going to air would include depositions in these secret military trials that have already happened with people like George W. Bush and Obama. I believe that's part of what you're going to see, of them confessing, and you're going to know that it's true. Okay, confessing to what they've already been involved in, and to whatever degree they aided and abetted. The 3 days is probably going to involve, therefore, a lot of big tech, a lot of the entertainment industry, a lot of the financial system, a lot of the financial industry. So there'll probably be a lot of it in Chicago, a lot of it in New York, a lot of it in LA, a lot of it in San Francisco, other places. I don't really know, okay? All I know is that they want to try to get it done within 3 days. These soldiers will probably be working 24-hour shifts. Nobody's going to be sleeping. They're going to be probably having to take amphetamines in order to keep working, but they're going to get it done, and they're going to get it done in 3 days. Hopefully they'll let people sleep, because as one of the insiders told me, sleep is a weapon. You're not effective if you don't get any sleep. So I hope they don't just keep them amped up on meth for 3 days, and they have some shifts in this work. But we will, in our prayer here, be sending these guys our best prayers and good wishes once again.
Who needs sleep?
This mission will be a success. Let's go on to the next question. I talked about the highly relevant dream that I had this morning, which seems to give us some insight that this is not going to happen right away.
I had a dream last night.
Whatever the screaming lady is who comes out with her weird, straight, long hair parted down the middle black and her weird white dress, that is a metaphor. That is not literally true, okay? But it's a metaphor of some other thing that's going to freak people out that hasn't happened yet, that we're probably still going to have to see before the 3 days, and that's just dream briefings. So I don't know what the hell it means, but we'll find out soon enough. Okay, can you explain the difference between ascending to fourth density versus the fifth dimension, and what is the fourth dimension? Okay, this is a very standard law of one oriented question, and again, I believe the law of one is the most reputable extraterrestrial communication we've ever had. It's literally the equivalent of like the Roswell crash in a chunk of information that we can all analyze. I've found hundreds of scientific things in there that were not proven at the time it came through, 1981 to 1983, which I was subsequently able to verify with data that hadn't even been generated in the early 1980s, okay? So bearing all that in mind, this concept of density is interesting because the law of one says, yes, it's like an alternate plane of existence, but it's not a dimension per se. So bear in mind that dimensions refer to length, width, and height. They are simply mathematical terms to define what it means to be in space with all this space. Let's go to this shot here. All this space around us, I can use my hands, right? All this space around us. This is a dimension. This is length, width, and height. Okay, so you have those three dimensions, and then they try to say in some of these like superstring theories that you make this orthogonal rotation into a higher dimension. There's some kind of 90-degree turn. Well, wait a minute. You can't make a 90-degree turn into a higher dimension. You're always going to be in three dimensions. So the law of one says no. Dimensions are just dimensions. They just measure space. Einstein said the fourth dimension was time because Einstein posited that time only goes forward in one direction. That has since been refuted by a wide variety of great science, including one of my favorites, the Wheeler-DeWitt equation, which shows that the laws of physics work just as well if time goes backwards than if time goes forwards. In other words, you can manipulate that t variable in all these crazy equations. You can make it go backwards, and all the equations still work. So time is not just linear. Time has 3 degrees of freedom to move in. Time is three-dimensional as well. This is one of the things they talk about in the law of one, derived from the science of Dr. Dewey Larson, Larsonian physics. Okay?
Dr. Dewey.
So you have 3 dimensions of space and 3 dimensions of time, and I talk all about this in my first book, the source field, which again is right here, just so that,
Ma, you've written a lot of books there, David.
I've showed you this before. These books kick
The
ass.
source
This is
field.
the first one I wrote, the most difficult one to write, over 1,000 academic
I call it
references.
the
new
force
one, Awakening
field.
the Dream. You can get a nice hardcover like
I wrote
this.
a book too.
You can pre-order it now. It's less than $20, and it'll get to you on June the 6th, and it's going to blow your freaking mind. So anyway, I put this stuff out there for a long time.
Blow my mind.
You got a whole elaborate discussion there about time, space, and space-time, and what does that mean? But with densities, what does it actually refer to? It refers to the level of, if you will, intelligence that's in the 3 space around us. So they talk about first density in the law of one. First density is the elements, earth, air, fire, and water. And those elemental forces have a consciousness that is not localized. They are conscious, but there's no local focus. It says in the law of one that as water moves over earth and as fire burns water, changing it to steam, as these elements collide with each other, that they form life as we would think of it. And this includes everything from bacteria, plant cells, animal cells, all the way up to every type of life on Earth except humans. That's all second density. But of course, first density and second density are existing in a 3-dimensional space. Second density has a mass consciousness. They do not have individuation where they think of themselves as a separate being until and unless you get a pet, at which point your pets actually start to say, I want you to feed me, which is called individuation. At that point in the law of one, they are no longer what they would call a mind-body. They become a mind/body/spirit, which is the last step before you become human, which is a mind/body/spirit complex. So when an animal becomes a mind-body-spirit, according to the law of one, they will now return in their next life as a human being. And they've graduated. They've gone from second density to third density. They've become human in their next life. So that's a really great thing, actually. That's a very happy graduation. So if you have a pet, and that pet has a sense of self, it's probably going to come back in its next life as a human. Where's my big dodo? Well, she's around. Anyway, she'll be an interesting person when she comes back next time. She can be a little reactive, but, I'm sure she'll do just fine. Anyway, third density, they say in the law of one, is the choice between service to self or service to others. You can make either choice, but they just want you to decide. So please, if you're going to be evil and you're going to want to kill people Just do it all the way. That's what the law of one says. And guess what? If you do it, you're going to have horrific karma. You're going to pay out every last bit of what you do to other people. You are not exempt from the laws of karma. It's a really ignorant path for that reason. But these guys got a head start. They built a huge, huge global corporation, if you will, a global organization where they made all the money. They developed a secret space program. They do all these crazy, evil stuff, and they don't tell us what they really are. And now, finally, they are being opposed so we can take our planet back. Fourth density is the density of love. Fifth density is the density of light or wisdom. Sixth density is the density where love and light are fused together, where you see self and other are one. The law of one. Seventh density is timelessness and foreverness, where self and other are not seen, only the void, only the intelligent infinity. Okay? At that point, your sense of individual identity starts to ease, and you start to merge with intelligent infinity, and that's the last step you make before you return to the octave. So in fourth density, you learn the lessons of love. That's the heart chakra, and you're a very loving person, but you lack wisdom. Even these higher beings, that's the way they are. Fifth density, you gain the wisdom, but you can become too involved in producing wisdom without really unifying it with love. So it's only at sixth density level, the brow chakra, where love and wisdom are unified, and now you're on a path where you are actually giving people your life as a commitment to spiritual service. So if you're going to try to hit sixth density in this life here on Earth, it's basically a requirement that you've consecrated your life in service to others. I've done that. Elizabeth has done that. You might have done that too. A lot of people are now able to work from home. This is one of the really great aspects of this shut-in, is how many people didn't realize they could work from home, and now they realize they can, and it's kind of goading you forward to what's going to actually be a much better life, because we don't really need to go to offices. People can telework, they can telecommute, they can teleconference, and that's a great thing. So, you know, we have a lot to look forward to here. So that's just a basic breakdown on the densities. I'm going to talk a lot more about that in the upcoming class. If you've already signed up for that, thank you. If you haven't signed up for our class, there's still time to get in. We're starting it in about a little over a week, like a week and a half, so it's not very far away. And I will be giving you all spiritual information. We're not even going to get into the bug. It's going to be just heavy-duty spiritual downloads that you need to make you better equipped for how to handle this thing, how to get your spiritual guidance, get direct downloads from your higher self, so you know what your instructions are, what your marching orders are, what you need to be doing to best be of service. And I realized in light of this that I need to design a whole class around that. It's going to be radically different than the previous class with a lot of new information, lots of slides, lots of content. I can't wait for it. And it's the same price as typical conferences, but way more information than you normally get from me at a conference. Okay. What is the best way to get my pineal gland to activate and operate as it should? Okay, that's a great question. So the pineal gland, as I was saying in a previous show, is this third eye. It actually is wired into the visual cortex of your brain. It has retinal cells inside, and what are they looking at? An area of water. The area of water has DMT crystals in it, and I talked about how DMT crystals are piezochromatic, meaning that they can be vibrated by electromagnetic fields and release colored photons of all the different colors of the rainbow. So you can get full color visions from your soul, which is flying around, and then a lot of people, when they have an OBE, they see the silver cord. That's the connection between your soul and your physical body, and many OBE experiencers say that the silver cord is connected to their third eye. Well, yeah, you can go out and explore, but you're tethered to your body, and anything that you see with that soul body goes through the silver cord. The photons actually travel through. They go inside your pineal gland once it's activated, which is taking place in darkness. We'll get into that in a minute. You activate your pineal gland, and then your retinal cells will actually see the stuff that your soul is seeing, because these DMT crystals vibrate it. Then those signals are sent into your visual cortex, and you have to learn. That's one of the things I'm going to teach you in the class. Learn how to identify when your third eye is seeing something. What does it look like? How do you measure it? How do you see? And one of the secrets I'll give you right now is that it comes in fleeting snapshots. When you start to get visions from your third eye, They are not going to last very long. They go very quickly. So it's a fast thing. And so little bursts of visual information actually are very important. And that's why you want to document them. This is what remote viewers start doing before they get the full contact with the target. Now, here's another thing. Your pineal gland requires that you have a free amount of water in there in order for it to work. So when you get the typical Western diet, you start to get pineal calcification, okay? What does that mean? That means that calcium deposits are building up inside your pineal gland, and almost, in some cases, almost all of the water is consumed by calcium deposits. Now, if it gets to the point where it's almost all the water in your pineal gland, you will start to have physical problems. You'll get degenerative diseases like Parkinson's disease. That is associated with pineal calcification, okay? Your nerves will start to break down because there's other things the pineal gland regulates as well. So, the deep state people know this. They know that your pineal gland is the secret to your third eye, and they're trying to suppress its functionality. Now, how do they do that? Well, one of the answers is that they will give you wheat. So I'm going to put it right out there right now. Wheat products, because when it's, even if it's whole wheat, right? It's the additives that they've made to the wheat that bind everything up. They bind into your colon. All the times that your colon twists, the wheat gets stuck in there. So even if you're a vegan, I don't recommend eating whole wheat at all. Just eat other types of grains besides wheat or corn, or soy for that matter, which is sad because vegans love their soy burgers and their soy hot dogs. Well, soy is terrible, okay? These are weaponized foods. You don't want to put them in your body. You can get natural stuff, and if you want to be vegetarian, you can still eat eggs, of course. And that's, you know,
I'm having eggs right now.
You'll get a lot of goodness out of the eggs, especially if the yolks are dark orange.
I got them. Free range,
this is very,
buddy.
very important, okay? The whole wheat and regular white especially is very bad. Refined sugar is very bad for the pineal gland. You will definitely get buildup in your pineal gland if you're eating a lot of sugar. That is going to happen. Another thing that's very bad is all of the halides. The halide family refers to fluoride, chlorine, all that kind of stuff.
Fluoride's
so if you
horrible for you.
Drinking water that is not purified, you're getting that into your body. You know, if you take showers without using the shower filter, that can affect you. It's not a big deal, okay? So
don't swallow
freak out
your
about that one.
toothpaste.
It's not terrible if you're taking showers without the shower filter. I know you might not have one right now. That's okay. It's not a big deal. It's much more about what you actually ingest with your mouth, okay? So you want to be really, really careful to avoid, like, for example, I don't ever use fluoridated toothpaste. So Colgate, Crest, all that kind of stuff.
There you
never.
go.
I've been using the Indian toothpaste Oromir for 20 years, and I didn't have any cavities.
I use Tom's
I didn't
brand.
have to have, you know, veneer work done, as I said before.
Not now.
I chewed off all the enamel.
I don't brush my teeth
on
anymore.
my molars, and they showed me this on photographs.
I used to brush my
It was all
teeth.
dentin exposed, which is why I couldn't eat nuts without pain. So I did have to have my teeth overhauled for my own health. But it's because when you take on the cabal, you start grinding your teeth at night and you grind off your enamel. So, you know, the new veneers look great, but it was an enormous amount of pain. But I am happy to report that I didn't have cavities, you know, and I was using only this health food store toothpaste. So the whole idea that you must have fluoridated toothpaste, I'm living proof that wasn't true for me. So don't believe that, because the fluoride is your enemy. It gets into your pineal gland.
That's
Now,
true.
We can talk about the Weston Price material. And Weston Price was the dentist who went through and went to all these indigenous cultures where they didn't have Western food, and they only ate the indigenous food
true.
they had been eating for 10,000 years. And in all those cases, he had less than one cavity per 1,000 teeth. Everybody had great teeth. Everybody had no crooked teeth. They didn't break bones. They didn't get heart disease. They didn't get diabetes. They didn't get cancer. They wouldn't break bones when they fell. They were psychic, and they lived a really long time. And Pete Peterson was the one who said that the U.S. government, in its covert nasty elements, decided that if Weston Price's research was known to people on a large-scale level, they would collapse the U.S. economy because Social Security would be overwhelmed with people who were living too long and collecting benefits for too long. So they stuffed that data. Now, if you are a meat eater, there's lots of options, because basically what Weston Price discovered is that animal protein has this substance in it called Activator X. Okay? Activator X, whatever the hell that stuff is, we don't know if it's really a chemical. We don't know if it's a series of chemicals. We don't know if it has some kind of energetic quality. But we do know that it shows up in certain types of animal protein. There is a way around this. Excuse me. There is a way around this if you're a vegetarian, and that's to eat eggs, okay? If you don't do that, then you're not taking full advantage of the possibility of decalcifying your pineal gland, because the best way to decalcify your pineal gland is Activator X. If you're a vegetarian, you can do it with eggs, and you want to find whatever eggs you have available to you. Actually, if you can find any eggs right now, congratulations, because they're in very, very short supply.
There are tons of eggs around. What are you talking about?
But if you can find the eggs that have the dark orange yolks, that has way more Activator X
Local
than
economy,
light yellow yolks.
community-based
That's your best bet if
economy.
you're a vegetarian. And we had found this company called Happy Egg Farms, and if you buy the blue ones, the blue eggs, they had two types of chickens that were in there. One of them was called Spotted Leg Bar, and I forget what the other one was, but they're heirloom eggs. They have weird shells. Some of them are blue, some of them are brown with spots. The shell is hard to crack. You got to crack it a lot harder. You open it up, and it's orange, dark orange yolk. That is loaded with Activator X, okay? That was the only types of eggs I'd be eating. If you are a meat eater, it's really good to try to get the most ethical meat possible. Now, I do not support, and I never have supported, factory farming, slaughterhouses, all that kind of crazy stuff. There is a way to invest your money into companies that treat animals as ethically as possible.
There we go.
Vegans get all upset about this. I'm sure there's a tidal wave of negative comments right now from people who are vegans. But again, you're never, I'm sorry, this is true, you're never going to convince people not to eat meat. It's never going to happen. Nothing that you say is going to convince anybody. So the best thing that you can do, actually, is to try to get the people who are going to eat meat, even if you hate it,
To eat better.
to support things that treat
local.
animals ethically. Let them live out in the
Ethical.
field their whole life. Don't leave them in a factory. Let them go out and run around in the pasture. Don't give them antibiotics. Don't give them drugs.
Well,
Don't
that's
give
a
them
good
steroids,
idea.
right? So almost exclusively, the meat that I eat is buffalo, bison, because bison are required by federal law. They cannot be manipulated, exploited, abused, poisoned, etc. They don't get antibiotics. They don't get steroids. They're out there in the wild, and that's the way they live their whole lives, okay? So when you get into that kind of stuff, when you get into the really, really nicely done proteins that are ethically raised, they are very high in Activator X. So if you eat bison on a regular basis, it's very high in Activator X. Now, I remember getting a live blood analysis, and
This guy's got
you know,
a lot of
he's looking at
information.
like how many red blood cells do you have, how many white blood cells do you have, and
Wonder
because
if
I was
anybody's
eating all the
listening.
bison all the time, I had this gigantic amount of red blood cells. He actually said it was almost too much, so I could bleed out a lot, and all the other red blood cells would quickly fill up as my body immediately generates plasma, and I'd be fine. Okay, when I was a vegan and I gave blood for a VD test, which thankfully I came out clean.
Coming
I
to
had
you
no
live
VD.
from
Thank you
Penticton,
very
British
much.
Columbia, Canada.
But I drew a little
On
bit of
YouTube
blood,
and Facebook.
and I passed out,
sharing
and
my
I was
screen
on
on
this cold
Facebook
tile
and
bathroom floor with my shirt off,
doing
trying to,
something else on
come
YouTube.
back to life just from
Just
giving
me.
a little vial of blood because I was
Me and
so
David
weak.
Wilcox in the background,
So there's
talking
some
into my ear.
haters out there that have leaked some pictures
No
of me where I
visuals,
look like I
no
came out of a
fancy
concentration camp.
parlor
My face
tricks.
is extremely gaunt and thin. I have very, very dark circles under my eyes, and my skin is essentially white. That was what veganism did to me after 7 years. I did not have a choice.
Yeah.
I had my job telling me that I was mentally ill, that I needed to get therapy, that I had an eating disorder. I said, well, I have a healthy diet. I'm a vegan, you know, but
Yeah.
it wasn't healthy because my body wasn't healthy. So
Yeah.
if I could do the vegan diet, I would, but I can't.
Some of
My
us
body doesn't
can't.
support it.
Ah.
Therefore,
Hey, it's snowing.
again, I'm sorry if you don't like it. However, here's another thing. Let's
I
say
eat
you're a
less
vegetarian.
meat than I ever did before,
There is one other thing you can
but
do.
I eat well.
You can get ghee.
Good.
This is very, very
No
important.
hormones.
Weston Price's research found out
No shit
you
from
can get
Walmart.
ghee, which is clarified butter, and specifically
Oh,
he
ghee's good.
said that the ghee should be coming from cows that eat fast-growing wild grass, meaning they're not factory farmed.
Ghee is
They're
the
wild-raised cows.
stuff that
There are companies that sell that
comes
ghee.
to the
You want
top.
to look at the ghee inside the bottle, and you want to look at how dark it is. And again, the closer it goes towards being a kind of an orangey yellow, especially if you could actually find orange.
the brighter the
which is very
colors
rare.
that you're eating,
Look
the
on the bottle
better.
just to make sure they're not adding
The brighter the colors, the better the food.
saffron or
Eat all your colors.
other things that cause redness to occur, like turmeric, right? They could add turmeric to it.
Eat all your
As long as they're not adding turmeric or anything like that, if you find that butter, that ghee, that's got that dark color, you buy it because you can cook with it. It's a great cooking oil. It can get really hot without smoking, unlike olive oil, which is really bad. It smokes at a very low temperature and it goes rancid as soon as it starts smoking. The ghee will decalcify your pineal gland. So just to review, okay, if you do eat meat, you want to keep it as ethical as possible. The better those animals are raised, the more activator X they're going to have. Fish liver is one of the best things. Fish liver oil has a lot of activator X in it, and there were certain types of fish that Weston Price specifically mentioned, like the rat fish. There is a skate liver oil product that's out there that appears to be good. I don't get any commissions on it, but I have sold it at my conferences before. From Green Pasture, they have something called skate liver oil, fermented skate liver oil. That's one of the things you can do. Be advised that it will change your breath in a negative way if you're in a relationship, so you should probably both be doing it then. The ghee is great. The eggs with the dark orange yolks are great. And that's really your main stuff, okay? It's not a whole complicated thing. You just add these into your diet so you can cook the eggs with the ghee and have that be one of your meals for the day. The Activator X only comes through animal proteins, so that's really important. But that is, he did find that you could reverse pineal calcification with that. And of course, the best quality water, reverse osmosis with alkaline added in. If you get reverse osmosis by itself, it's not very good. Distilled water by itself will actually screw you up as well by demineralizing your body, which you don't want. But again, Activator X is the main key for pineal decalcification. And another thing also, of course, is proper hydration. If you don't drink enough water, you're going to have a problem. And so we can cut to this shot. Here's my dog right here. She just comes around sometimes, and that's the big killer. She's you got to have a dangerous dog if you do this business, because we don't want somebody showing up uninvited to do their wet works or whatever the hell they would do. Anyway, let's have another question. I'm going to keep this to 2.5 hours more or less. How do I help others navigate into the Great Awakening? Well, that's a great question. Look, this is a team effort. We all are working together on this. We're all pulling together and pooling our resources and figuring out how to get this information out there. Remember, what did we learn from complexity theory? One entity within the system can transform the entire system around itself, and the outcome is not predictable beforehand by anyone. No matter how much you try to contrive the outcome, you really can't. So right now, what I advise is give people information in a way that doesn't create fear. And also, please, as I always tell you, follow the rule of 10%. In other words, if you have somebody who is ready to wake up, give them 10% of whatever it is that you want to say, even if it's only 10% of one topic. Give them 10%. Yes, he touched his face. Oh my God, dude, I'm already immune to COVID. I definitely kicked that thing in the ass. So yeah, I'll touch my face. This is ridiculous, okay? I'm not sick. I haven't been sick. I had, a month where I had to sleep for 10 hours a day. Didn't even have any body aches. I was just fatigued and it was over, okay? So I am going to itch my nose because it's itching like hell right now. I don't know why. And I got the girly right there. It's the whole situation. 10%. Don't give them everything that you want to say. Let's get that hair looking right. You got to make do with what you got. And this isn't much, so I'm just going to fluff this stuff up somehow. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Give them 10% of what you want to say, and then stop and let them say something. If you do the crazy monologue, it's never going to work. You got to stop, say 10%, let them talk, and then give them 10% more, and then let them talk and give them 10% more. And I did this one time when I was staying at Moraine Lake in Canada. I had this family come up. They didn't know anything about conspiracy theory. They said, well, you know, who are you? What are you doing? Oh my God, here's the dreaded 4 words. What do you do? I never like that question if I get that out in the wild, because then it opens up all this stuff and I have to start talking, and the next thing you know, it's a lecture and everybody's crowding around me and listening to me. That's happened so many times, and it's not necessarily cool if you're just trying to get to the bathroom, okay? Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's not cool. Depends on how I feel. Anyway, this time it was cool, and people who didn't know anything about my subjects, I was able to talk them through the whole thing by just giving them a little bit and then letting them respond, and then, well, you know, that's funny. That reminds me of something I saw. And I'm like, yeah, you know, that's interesting. What about this? And wow, that's interesting. And that reminds me of this. And yeah, well, what about this? Next thing you know, within about an hour, I told them everything, like the whole platform that I talk about, and they were able to understand it. So I would say you don't have a lack of information. It's just about delivery, and the way to deliver it is in small doses, and you got to have that ability to hold your tongue and let them process. And as long as you do that, you'll be fine. That's the best way to help others navigate. Next question. What is going to happen to those who don't know, those who want to stay in programming? Well, in this particular case, if you listen to what QAnon is saying, this is not an option. Awakening is not going to be an option. Everybody is going to learn what really happened, what our planet was, who was running it, how evil they really were, what they were really trying to do, that they did want to kill a bunch of people, that they were practicing Luciferian Satanism, they were practicing human sacrifice, they were practicing blood drinking, they were creating wars where they owned both sides to try to reduce population, to try to create a unification into a one world order. We're going to learn all this stuff, so there's going to be no escape. You're not going to be able to think that this wasn't true, and there's nothing you can do to put the genie back in the bottle. So this plan, you know, they say trust the plan, Q says trust the plan, and I do. So you got to understand the magnitude of what's coming. You got to understand the magnitude of the global televised sit-down, as Q said in the previous show. I showed you that slide. The global televised sit-down, where you find out that these people are on trial, you find out that they are testifying in their own words, yes, I was involved in this, yes, I was doing this, yes, we thought we were saving the planet, because yes, we thought there were too many people and we had to attack population numbers. You're going to find out that COVID was an artificial virus. You're going to find out that it was smuggled in through the Harvard University professor Charles Lieber and his students. All that stuff is coming out. That's why I showed you that article where they're already talking about biological smuggling. They're giving you different cases, but then they're saying, well, it was just an accident. These guys didn't really know what they were doing, and it was just the result of normal viruses that appeared out of biological samples, and these guys just found it and tested it and kept it, and they weren't trying to do anything evil, per se. Okay, I don't agree with that at all. That's not really what's happening. So, what's going to happen to those who don't know, those who want to stay in their programming? You can't stay in programming. This is going to be a global awakening. So, everybody's going to go through this. It's really about how will people respond to the truth. So, if you have family members who are not ready for this, they're going to be the ones who have to throw up. They're going to be the ones who have to go through the really, really dark night of the soul, because this is a betrayal. I call it the man in the bedroom effect, right? It's like walking in on your partner who you've trusted and loved and you never thought you would be betrayed, and there's that moment where you look and there they are in the bed with somebody else, okay? I've never done that to anyone. I never would. People are always trying to dig up dirt on me. There's nothing like that to find. So I'm only speaking in hypotheticals here. But if hypothetically you walked in on that, right? What we've done, studied it from people that have had this happen to them, the first reaction is denial. That can't be a man in bed with my wife. That can't be real. I'm not seeing this. And people do a double take, right? Their head goes back. Then, the next thing that happens is anger. They get very, very angry because they realize, oh my God, I've been betrayed, I've been lied to, and this is the proof. It's right in front of my face. So there's going to be a lot of people who get really, really angry because our leaders are worshipped as if they were like our parents or even like God, you know? So when you find out what's really going on, it's going to be really rough. So the people who are not prepared for this thing, they're going to learn a lot of dark stuff, and they're going to be very, very upset. And that's really where your help is going to be necessary to try to reach out to them and help them put this thing together. Next question. How does the ascension affect our human body? What happens to our body when we ascend into the light body? Well, okay, so the Law of One does describe that there is a transitional body between third and fourth density, that it doesn't happen all at once, that your third density body is transformed. And again, think about that bacteria, Caenorhabditis elegans. It dropped into lactose, and in one generation, it evolves its mouth parts to digest lactose. That's within one lifetime, right? So therefore, our bodies are going to be evolving in ways that we can't necessarily visually see, but will lead to things like telekinesis, telepathy, that kind of stuff will start to happen. Seeing ghosts, perhaps. I do believe there are waves of ascension, that we're going through the first wave now, which is a collective awakening. After this thing happens and the 3 days are over, and they start giving us the mass arrest, and they start showing us the tribunals, you're still going to be the same. You're not going to be levitating the, things, objects around you. You're not going to be reading people's minds. But that creates the possibility for those things to start to happen. There appear to be later waves of ascension, which hopefully, if we can use this single, fine, strong moment of inspiration worldwide, we don't have to have earth changes. Everybody gets to go through this. And this is a brilliant opportunity for that to happen. The way this whole thing is played out, with everybody being at home and everybody's going to watch the mass arrests, we actually could be on that optimum timeline where we don't have to have earth changes. If we do have earth changes, then there will be people all getting ushered off the planet. Everybody except the most evil people will get the rescue plan. Even the people who aren't going to ascend still get rescued if it goes down this way. That'll be pretty exciting. That's like an ascension itself, even if you don't end up turning into a light body. But it's
My
only
mom would
after
say
this
that's the
sort of
rapture.
solar energy release, whether it causes earth changes or not, that you start to get your
Why
light
do you
body
reference your
activation.
mom so much?
Based on all these different prophecies from many different
She's
religions.
got something to say.
The Quran, the Bible, it's everywhere, okay? They all talk about this.
Leave me alone.
So, and 33 other ancient traditions as well, because there's 35 in total that did this. So when you get the light body, you will probably within a relatively short time be able to levitate, you'll be able to fly, you'll be able to read people's minds, you'll know about your past lives, you'll remember them. It's a very, very amazing thing. You'll communicate telepathically, you won't need to use your mouth. These skills will take time to develop,
Finally.
but I think the ET souls, the angelic souls, they will probably be able to remember these abilities and use them almost immediately. So there's stages to this ascension. It doesn't happen all at once, but we're going through the first Great Awakening right now, and I'm very excited about it. So I could go on and on with this, but we're already at 2 hours and 45 minutes. How can I be more grounded when I lucid dream? I seem to be less intelligent when I'm doing it, but how can I control that? Unfortunately, I hate to burst your bubble, the answer is you can't. When you're in a lucid dream, you do not have your full conscious faculties. So kudos to you for noticing that. In my new class, I am going to go through all of the protocols of lucid dreaming, how to do it, how to identify it. That's the Great Awakening class. By no means do I want to infringe on Q's Great Awakening. I just want my class, which is like a typical conference, but you can watch it at home and pay for it that way, to be another example of that. Okay, so lucid dreaming does involve your dreaming self, and your dreaming self does not have all of your waking mind's resources, so you're not going to be able to think as clearly. You're not going to remember all the things that you would normally know, and you're going to be operating at a deficit, but you can still get a lot of really, really amazing stuff going when you have a lucid dream. And we'll talk to you in the class about how to do that. Okay, a lot of people are asking about the class. We had many, many iterations of this question. How does this new program differ from last year's program? The answer is 100%, okay? So if you saw the other one and you saw what I was talking about, probably hardly any of that stuff is going to be repeated because remember, when I write a book, it's a big frickin' deal. There's a lot that gets crammed into it. If you don't want to take the class, if you can't afford it or you don't want to do it, I would still highly recommend you buy Awakening in the Dream as a pre-order. It's like $20 or something, and you get the beautiful hardcover book. This helps our efforts. So like, I can do these hours and hours of free videos, but we have to pay for it somehow. So please don't troll me for
I'm going to try to get this down to a
We're not
one-pager.
becoming fabulously wealthy from this, but it does help us to do what we need to do. So how is the new program different? We're going to talk about the Great Pyramid. We're going to talk about the Great Pyramid timeline. We're going to identify the different types of beings that you can connect with. You can find out what they look like, how to connect with them, how they're trying to communicate with you, how to talk back to them. You're going to learn how to use your dreams as a source of guidance. I'm going to hopefully train you to the point where any dream that you have, you'll be able to understand what it means. You'll have the tools to decipher it. I'm going to give you plenty of examples of how this works. I'm going to have you send your dreams in. I'll be analyzing your dreams as part of the curriculum. We have all kinds of really interesting stuff on the Greys and what do they represent, and are they in the Bible? Are they mentioned in the Bible? What is their role in all of this? We're going to talk about the Anshar, the Elders, the Midwayers, these beings in white robes with whitish or blonde hair, and what do they represent? And a lot of new stuff that you've never seen before, even if you've watched all the Corey Good stuff, all the things that I've ever done with him. I got some wonderful new stuff that will blow you away in terms of how much it validates what Corey is saying. We're going to talk about some new insider testimony on the Secret Space Program. We're going to talk more about the Stargate systems and how those work. It's going to be a whole new thing, but again, the real focus is on your personal development, getting you equipped to handle this ascension so that you can pass with flying colors. All right. Can we collectively shift the field by group meditations? Well, absolutely. We already showed that with the graph showing how the Schumann resonance, and I'll show that again in a minute, got up so high. And we're going to do another group meditation here in just a minute, so I can hopefully keep this to 3 hours.
Yay! Group meditation!
Yes, we can collectively shift the field, absolutely, and we're about to do that.
I'm ready. Put me in,
Who
Coach.
are the guest expert faculty in the Great Awakening course? Okay.
Are we doing it now?
We're
meditating now, aren't we?
contacted the people who I would like to have speaking in it. And right now, I have a definite confirmation from Dr. Glenn Ryan. He's the DNA scientist who showed that love can transform the DNA molecule.
What?
I definitely have a confirmation from Sperry Andrews, and he has done some really amazing stuff on consciousness science and how to evolve your consciousness and the science behind that. He's got some really, really amazing insights into the Cabal, into the global initiation that we're going through. Sperry is an amazing intellect. I love talking to him. Danian Brinkley has definitely confirmed he's going to be involved in it. We have some pre-taped stuff from him if we need to use it, but hopefully we'll get him back out here. We can talk to him in person. His health is very fragile right now. His blood pressure is like 75 over 45.
Well, that's
or
not
so
good. Tell him not to
getting
stress
stem cell
out so
treatments
much.
into his heart to try to boost his heart function. We really hope Daniel is going to pull through and get a little more time here, but he is right on the edge right now. And so we're going to send love to him in the meditation.
It's only
okay?
death.
But Danny will be on there. I have another scholar who I've contacted, and if he's watching this, he knows who he is. No, I'm not going to ask you to talk about the Cabal. That's not what it is. And yes, we're going to talk about the Law of One, so I hope he'll do it, but I don't want to say his name until we've definitely confirmed. Sorry I haven't written you back. I have a couple other people I've asked, and we're just waiting to hear back from them or try to get through the right channels. So we're going to have guest faculty, and again, that won't cut in with your lecture time. It's an enormous amount of material for the cost, much better actually than a regular conference in terms of all you get. And the 3 modules that my wife is going to do are separate from my 5, each of which I end up talking 2 to 4 hours.
I'm taking her
so it's a lot of
modules.
stuff. All right. What is your number one reason for believing in the Great Awakening? I actually need to stop and think about that one for a minute. What is the number one reason for believing in the Great Awakening? The number one reason I would have to say is that I believe in an intelligent universal creator. I believe in God, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I believe in intelligent infinity. I believe that this is a conscious, sentient universe, and I believe that the universe speaks to us when we understand how to decipher it through synchronicity, through dreams, and ultimately through direct telepathy. And I'm going to be showing you in the class how I do that, how to listen to your third eye, how to watch what your third eye is showing you, how to tune into it, how to slow it down so that it's not just a snapshot, but you can start to pay longer attention to the images that your third eye is sending into your visual cortex. But ultimately, I believe this is a good universe. It is not an evil universe.
Well, that's
Beings
good.
like Jesus and Buddha told us that love is the key. I believe that's true, that loving consciousness is the energy of the universe.
That's true.
And that ultimately this negative stuff that we're going through right now is all authorized as part of our Great Awakening. The beings are not going to let them do a 5G meltdown. They're not going to let them do a nuclear war. They're not going to let them blow up the whole planet. This thing is a safe, contained process that we're going through that gives people the opportunity for solitude so they can be home. Okay? So here's another one. My family are closed to the possibilities. Why are they so closed, and what can I do to assist them?
My
This causes
computer's
no
so
end of
slow.
conflict, concern, confusion, and distraction. Well, we already
Say,
talked about this with the
I'm
process.
overextending
As I said,
its
give them only 10% of the
capabilities.
time. Whoever has been confused
Live streaming
is not going to have that luxury anymore after the world televised sit down
on
as
YouTube and
the
Facebook
president is calling it in the
takes
QAnon
up a lot
stuff.
of
You're going to know.
random
So
access
at that
memory.
point, again, the key is coaching them through this. Up until then, I don't know if they're going to listen to you or not. Honestly, just do the rule of 10% and we'll try. Why do so many people have to suffer before we awaken? Unfortunately, suffering, or what they call catalyst in the law of one, is what cracks the shell that we build around our hearts. Okay? It's only by cracking that shell that we build around our hearts that we start to learn to love one another. So, suffering is only meted out by your soul to the degree necessary to awaken you to the importance of living in a loving universe, and that love is the agenda, and love is what you're here to spread and to promote. And that's it. That's the way it works. So you don't have to give up your religion. You don't have to become something different. This is definitely not a cult. I'm not a
Love,
cult leader. I don't have anybody
love is not a
that
cult.
comes to meet with me. It's just not true, okay? But there are cool spiritual teachings that I'm trying to share with you that you can add in with your own tools, and you can become your own master. You can become the teacher and help people through this thing by just adding the knowledge and information that you have.
There you go.
So why do people have to suffer? Well, if you're not existing in a state of loving kindness as your general operating system, then you're going to keep getting thumped by the universe until you learn to be there. And that's one of the basic teachings of the law of one. You will keep getting moved until you stay in a loving consciousness state. And movement, ultimately, you need to see it as just an experience and not have any emotional attachment to it. So
Yes, we are.
ideally, you could get to the point where you're a public figure like me, you have lots of people hating you like me, and you're not offended.
We
You're
are.
not ultimately affected, okay? In certain cases, people are so disruptive that we still now have had to hire a full-time attorney and prepare some legal actions that haven't come out yet, but that's a very rare example when somebody just
Gotta
pushes
like
the
those
boundary
eggs.
way too far. And even then,
If
they
I had an
still
avocado
persist,
right
they
now,
won't listen. It's not like we're
Man,
absolutely going to
I'd
press
be
charges.
set. I got
But
the
for God's
sun,
sake, just give us a break. You know, we're doing
an
the best
egg,
we
and
can.
an avocado.
There's nothing to expose. This is
What
not
more
a
do you
cult.
need?
We haven't done anything wrong. All right. Besides meditation, what is essential to be practicing in these times of change? I really think the most important thing right now is service to others, you know? Try to get people awakened, educate yourself, take this time of solitude to read books, to watch the videos you want to watch, to study the things you want to study. Building your knowledge is a great thing to be doing right now, and reaching out to other people and helping people, doing what you can to dissolve fear, to build trust, to build love, to build happiness, all that stuff is very good. How can I find my life's purpose in this emerging paradigm? Well, I like to go along with what Joseph Campbell always said, which is follow your bliss. If this is what you're the most passionate about, it's very closely related to your life's purpose. And then the key is, how do you merge your bliss with something that will actually generate income? And that's the big clue, and I will be talking about
Income
some spiritual business
schmincome.
principles during our Great Awakening class as well, because now with everybody shifting to working from home, there's a huge opportunity now. for
Although
more
it would be
people to
nice
do
to be
that,
able
and I will
to,
be sharing with you some of
whatever
those principles in the class, definitely.
financial
It's gonna
system
happen.
we're working on.
Okay, now we have this question.
Whether it's a
Came
ledger,
in from Danny and
I
Brinkley
think we should
himself.
just keep ledgers.
Do
Trade.
you think Danny and Brinkley is a reptilian sent to Earth from hell? And the answer is No, Danian is actually a great friend. He's a remarkable guy. And this segues into our next question.
I think he's a reptile.
This is it's classic offbeat sense of humor he has. This is his next question. Danian Brinkley in Saved by the Light,
Who is this
Chapter
guy?
5, which is titled Boxes of Knowledge, published in 1994, said that the battle for the future of humanity would be fought in healthcare. Is this now a prophetic glimpse into our current reality?
Probably.
So this is one of the things, I've had some long conversations with Daniel about this, because in his first near-death experience in the 1970s, he saw these colorful beings of light that didn't have faces. They were just like rainbow-colored beings with all this light, and they brought forward what he said were like almost like laptop computers, and they opened up, and then there were these visions of the future in there. And so when you go in and you read his classic Saved by the Light, which has now had like 21 million copies that he sold or something, it's unbelievable. Right?
It's a lot of copies.
I mean, his story is incredible. You could never do that now. Books are almost a dead-end business, basically.
Yes.
I'm only doing it really because I like to get out the message, but in terms of profitability, it's not profitable to work on a book. It's just way too much time.
Too much time.
Way too much time.
Too much
what you
time.
get out of it. Anyway.
It's true.
He had these boxes of knowledge that were shown to him by these beings, and the prophecies that were in Saved by the Light in 1994, many of them have come true. And when we were first getting through this mass shutdown, he was like, well, David, and I could even use my Danny voice, well, David, I don't understand it. The boxes of knowledge never showed me this stupid pandemic. Well, as time went on, and we kept talking, he realized, wait a minute. And I remembered him saying this. Over and over again, one of the key things that he kept saying from that visionary experience is, the battle for the future of humanity will be fought in healthcare. And so now, look at what's happening. The whole battle for the future of humanity, whether we're even
'Cause
gonna
it's
live
super
this planet Earth
important.
or not, is being fought in the healthcare system. Do we have enough masks? Do we have enough ventilators? Do we have enough hospitals?
Do we?
have enough beds? Can we even provide burial for the people? Right?
Do we have enough?
The battle for the future of humanity is going to be fought in healthcare. So that's a really cool thing where now it looks as if, yes,
Live.
once again,
I'm live right
he's got
now.
more hits than the Italian mafia. Psychic hits, that is. And he's nailing these things because, wow, I've been talking to Danian. I've known him for almost 20 years. That's been one of his things he says at almost every show. The battle for the future of humanity will be fought in healthcare. And now it seems like the beings were right. And again, I had prophecies in the 1990s that were talking all about what we're going through now and saying that we're all going to be fine. So I'm very, very confident about a positive future. So now I'd like to do another mass meditation. We are now 3 hours in. How long have we been broadcasting exactly? What does it say?
Did you see this live, Quinn? You saw
Exactly
this
3
live,
hours,
didn't
all
you?
right.
I didn't see this live.
So, and we have
You're way
my lovely,
ahead of
delicious
me.
wife, Elizabeth. I know you're jealous. I'm sorry. Yeah, I did pick a really,
All
really
right,
good
let's
one.
do it.
That's just how I go. You know, you had any choice of anybody you could want, and I picked
Get the
Elizabeth.
bowls out.
Believe me, I sorted through many to get there. Not that I tasted the product per se. Let's just not. Whatever, Okay. So let's frame up this shot because she's going to be over on those bowls, and I'm going to be.
Framing up the shot.
I got to think about blocking, you guys. I'm a filmmaker here. All right.
That's right. Blocking's very important.
Okay. Now, do I have any interference on the microphone when I do this? Is it scratchy at all? Okay, great.
There's a little bit of
Give you that
static.
Schumann resonance graph. We can cut to that a little bit if you want. That is what happened the last time we did this. The line that you see up near the top, the green line, the thickest green line all the way across, that's the normal Schumann resonance
Right.
of 7.8 hertz. But now, look at what happened while we were all meditating. Look at the enormous increase in the Earth's electromagnetic activity.
It's a lot
That
of
is
green.
caused by us. So now, as you sit with me here,
So you can meditate
close your eyes.
all the time. You don't have to sit down and meditate. You don't have to. It can just be
Just
all the
ask
time.
that you let yourself
But this is good too.
breathe very deeply,
Breathing's very important.
such that you become ever more deeply relaxed.
Slow your breathing down.
I invite you to allow your breathing
We're doing this all together, aren't we?
to slow down, such that all of your burdens and all of your grief just eases away.
I like to imagine that I'm actually dead. There's no burden.
Deeper, deeper.
You might want to
into
come at it from a
your
different
soul.
angle. Just imagine you're dead. You're not good at this meditation thing, my friend.
You may notice how
I love
relaxed
those
you
bowls.
are, and that's good. Doesn't it feel nice to just let yourself go? To just let yourself relax?
Yeah,
Doesn't it feel nice as you go deeper and deeper into yourself?
it does feel good.
Deeper and deeper into your own soul.
My
You
soul's
feel warmth.
black.
The
But the good
softness.
black.
I invite you to notice how your brainwave activity is becoming slow and regular as you keep breathing deeply. Your thoughts are becoming more organized,
Should we bring
not so restless, not so chaotic,
should we bring in
deeply focused,
Rupert?
deeply relaxed. All of this.
I think we should bring in
available to you
Rupert.
in the
Let's bring in
here
Rupert.
and now.
Rupert, you there?
Letting yourself breathe however
So
you
we're
want.
contacting Rupert right now.
That was a good one. Let yourself just
So
cut
right now we're
those
just trying
ropes,
to
all those tethers
um
to negative emotions,
just trying to locate
to
Rupert.
obligation, to
Um
those who are trying to extract anger and fear from you.
trying to pinpoint his
To make you
location right
upset,
now.
fearful, anxious.
There he is.
Just cut those cords.
We got 12
described
minutes of
very-
them.
Let yourself
accurately that
glide back to a
situation
feeling
where
of pure, deep relaxation.
there is nothing, you're sitting in the car, there is nothing
So
for you to do,
deeply,
and you become aware of this subtle resistance to the current situation where there is no practical need
Right.
for any resistance.
Right.
So you become aware of the resistance, and then you become aware. You then judge that resistance, and you become aware of what is a resistance to your resistance, which is another layer of resistance. What is important not to do is to then try to change the second resistance into acceptance. Because that is just changing. It's a very subtle trick of the ego. The ego is made out of the first resistance.
Trick
I
of the
don't like
mind.
what is happening.
False
It
creation.
then reinforces itself by saying, I don't like the fact that I
Without
don't
dagger
like what
of the
is
mind, a false
happening.
creation.
Yes. So the ego is, by ego,
Yes.
I mean the separate self. It's made out of these, what is now two resistances. Then, when it begins to feel that it is being found out, it thinks, okay, I better change this second resistance into an activity called acceptance. It's a little bit more virtuous. It's a little bit more spiritual.
Yes.
And the separate self thereby subtly, and in fact not so subtly once we have seen it, perpetuates itself.
Yes.
So the resistance and acceptance are two ways in which the separate self perpetuates itself. What we're talking about is the openness that is the essential nature of awareness, ourself. Its nature is to be open, empty. In that sense, awareness, we could say, is like the space of this room. Its nature is to be empty. Acceptance is not something it practices. The space of this room, when we all start filing in here after dinner, it doesn't have to practice allowing each of us. It doesn't say, oh, I like the look of him, but I accept him, or I don't like the look of her, I resist her. In other words, the space is not negotiating experience. Accepting is its nature. It's what it is, not what it does. That's the important thing, to see that what we essentially are is already inherently and perfectly without resistance. Then, once we see that, we stand as that. We know ourselves as that. Then the mind is just left to do whatever it is doing, whether it's resisting, whether it's accepting, whatever it's doing. But it is no longer supported by our investment in it. And therefore, in time, without that support, it comes naturally to an end.
Yes.
The essential thing is to see that this acceptance is what we are, not what we do.
Yes, very important, yes. I would also say that when you were talking of the whole landscape, when there was nothing outside of experience, there was a very freedom, more a taste, if you like, of what you've just said, with going with that expansion.
Yes.
I think you said once in one of your books that a real body is consciousness, and somehow to feel
Yes.
that there was nothing outside of this.
Yes. Yes, exactly. If you think of what we normally think of as the body, we think of it as a kind of capsule in which all our experience is contained. It's made out of the skin. It's a kind of container defined by the skin in which experience takes place. So what is the real container of our experience? What does our experience really appear in? What do thoughts really appear in? Has any psychiatrist or neurologist ever found a thought in a brain or a mind? Indeed, have they ever found a mind? No. No. Thoughts appear in awareness, not in a brain. Sensations appear in awareness, not in a body. In fact, the body, our only experience of the body is a sensation or a perception. So yet the true body, in other words, the true container of our experience, is pure consciousness. This borderless field of pure knowing in which the landscape of experience appears. And ultimately, when we go on and explore it more deeply, out of which it is made.
This somehow also seems to enable things to take place, to happen without interfering or without guiding.
Yeah, that's true. This understanding then has a visceral effect on the physical experience of the body. The body is and I'm talking now of the apparently physical body, that it is relieved of some of its tension, because most of the tensions, at least those that aren't required for practical purposes, most of the body's tensions are due to the fact that they serve a self which is not there. So when the true and only self of pure knowing is discovered, the body is progressively and gradually relieved of this network of tensions and contractions, and it returns to its original state, which is a state of openness. of sensitivity, lovingness.
I had in mind the analogy of the physical body. If you just lie on a beach and just leave it alone, you don't have any. There's no illusion about you are doing the breathing, or you are moving the blood, or anything else. And it's such a nice feeling that it can work by itself. But when you referred to the whole landscape, there was a similar feeling.
It's snowing out.
Of events and
Yes.
everything can work
It's April 3rd,
by
Friday,
itself.
Yes.
And
Just
2020.
think now of how many billions of activities are taking place in your body.
12:10 p.m.
yes.
Pacific
How many
Standard
of
Time,
those, even from a conventional point of view,
if you're
do you feel
tracking,
you control?
which I am not.
Even from the point of view of materialistic science, the belief that we control what takes place in the body is absurd. Now think of how many activities, chemical activities and reactions are taking place in this room, let alone the whole world. To believe that those activities are controlled by a self that is made out of a single thought and feeling, or a network of thoughts and feelings, I mean, it's absurd.
And then that makes great sense of your suggestion that you're just the knowing. If I heard you correctly.
Yes, you're just the knowing, but that's quite a lot to be.
Yes.
We say just that, but it turns out that
Just as a
all
simplifier, we do this all the
anybody
time.
has ever experienced.
Especially Christians when they pray. They go,
that
I
knowing.
just really pray. I just
So although we
really
say
pray.
just the knowing,
I
that
really
knowing,
just
in
pray.
fact, turns out to be
that,
everything.
dot.
Yes.
That's
They're using a
quite a lot to
simplifier and
do.
an exemplifier in the same sentence,
know
which
oneself
negates
as
both
that.
of them. You know,
I mean,
being the
have
knowing
you ever
is
come in
like,
contact with anything other than the knowing of your experience.
what else is there? Nah, it's just the knowing. What?
This was quite clear when you were leading us through this.
Can't you do anything more than that?
No.
Could you ever come in
No.
contact with anything other than the knowing of your experience?
No.
Has anybody ever? Could anybody? No. All that is ever known is knowing. And it is knowing that knows knowing.
Live.
Everything.
2 hours,
everything
17 minutes, 13 seconds on
is
YouTube.
contained in that.
What
Is
have we
made of
accomplished?
And
I
that
think a lot.
knowing
We did a
itself
lot
cannot
today.
be partitioned up. It cannot be divided up into
Ah.
selves or objects. It's one.
You want some more tea?
infinite, dimensionless, indivisible field.
Yeah,
It's
I do.
only thought that divides it into a multiplicity and diversity of objects and selves. And it is only from the point of view of one of those thought-made selves that there is a multiplicity and diversity of objects and others. With that belief alone, the happiness and the peace that are inherent in our true nature is seemingly veiled, and as a result, the self that we believe and feel ourselves to be goes out into the world on a journey whose sole purpose is to recover the peace and happiness that seems to be missing. But the separate self that goes out into the world in search of happiness is like the character in the movie in search of the screen.
There's no chance of seeing this unless you resist nothing. Is that a proposition?
Put it the other way around. See this, and then see what happens to your resistance. In other words, don't make the absence of resistance a precondition for seeing this. Just go directly there. Don't worry about your resistance. That's why this is called the direct path. We just go straight to the heart of experience as directly as we can. And then from there, we look back and say to your resistance, how can you stand now?
Meditation with Rupert Spiro. That's a nice floral arrangement. Oh.
Ask yourself the question. Where did the sound of the phone come from? But only refer to your direct experience for the answer. Did the sound of the phone originate outside mind and then appear as a perception in the mind? When we heard the sound of the phone, it was obviously a perception in the mind. Just recall the sound. That sound, the recall of the sound obviously takes place in mind. The original experience of the sound took place in exactly the same place that the recall of the sound took place in. The difference is that we believe that the original sound originated outside mind, but was experienced inside mind.
Let's see what's going on Facebook. What's the conversation? What's the hullabublub? What is the topic of conversation right now on my homepage, Facebook. Lily beans. That's a great animal. Look at that. Good pictures. Oh, my computer's so slow. Takes me forever to do one task, like loving a picture or uploading a picture or seeing a picture. Come on now. There we go. I love that picture. That's a awesome picture. Don't be surprised. Wagka, Magtaka, Kongabawat, Galawa, Molme Ishu, Dahil, Nabu Buhe, Tayo, Se Mandang, Mariming, Mapan, Gushka. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I like it though. I love it. I love everything. Why do you do that? Why not? Why not? Fair. Philippines president gives authorities okay to shoot those violating coronavirus lockdown orders. Philippines president gives authorities okay to shoot. Like, this is not... These are real guns. That's not good. Trump asks medical supply firm 3M to stop selling N95 respirators to Canada. Why? Apparently respirators are needed, so why would you stop selling them to your neighbor? 3M's an interesting company. I quite like it. They're very innovative. I should work for 3M. That's my next job. I'm going to work for 3M. Oh, Dirk Van Stralen! Here we go! I can't wait. This is the new Van Stralen that's out. Did everybody... I gotta share it. I gotta share it. I gotta like it. I gotta love it. And then I'm gonna share it. It takes a long time because I'm live on YouTube and Facebook. It takes a considerable amount of my computer's random access memory to bring this incredible programming to you live. Beware mouth-to-ear transmissions. This will help. It's a lady. She's handing a mask to a guy. She goes, "This will help, but it still won't protect you from the president's mouth-to-ear transmissions." So... know what I'm talking about? German parents of brutally stabbed daughter have this to say: "We want everyone to see what a Syrian Muslim savage really." So we're going to clump all Syrians and Muslims into this box we call savage because of something that happened by an individual. That's a problem. I love you guys. Saudi oil filling a New Brunswick refinery. What kind of domestic energy policy is that? I'm not sure. But maybe we should get off oil. Let's be smart. Why are we shipping oil from Saudi Arabia or other places like that? Why are we so concerned about that oil? Why can't we just keep the oil we have here, use it until we don't need it anymore, until we've figured out clean, free energy, and then we unleash that on the world? Clean, free energy. Ian Santos, buen brazo. Posting like a trooper. 3M pushes back on Trump administration call to stop sending N95 masks to Canada. Penticton Western News. They're right on it, Penticton Western News. I'm coming to you live from Penticton, British Columbia, Canada, from the Beaumont Motel, room 240. Spare Bones Media. Perhaps you've heard of us? No? No, that wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me if you'd never heard of us. Thank you, Rosa, for that post. In desperation, New York State pays up to 15 times the normal prices for medical equipment. Because we got people bidding against other people and entities bidding against other entities. And then what? The price is crazy. Man, I wish I would have invested in respiratory equipment this whole time. I would have been loaded. And remember, Woodpecker delivers your emails to the primary inbox. Okay. Amy Enoch, what happened? Haha, this is what you will look like at 70 years old. I don't want to mess with Amy at 70. I'll tell you that much. Marilyn, nice pictures. I don't know about the mask thing, but Superhost again. Too bad no one is allowed to travel. If you're local and need a place to stay, check it out. I'm an airborne superhost. Anybody want to self-isolate with me? No? Alright. Tim Diesel taking a picture from probably his balcony somewhere. That's a nice picture. Nice boat. Debt-free, carefree. Who cares? Let's just be free. Jessica Hilton McPherson. No! Lean on me. Lovely day. Singer Bill Withers dies at 81! You know what? We gotta sing it. We gotta bring it up. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Is that Bill Withers? Is that Bill Withers? Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. I don't know. Sing it later. Margaret Hill. See, people die all the time, eh? Yeah, famous people die too. When they get old, they die. Some people die earlier. Some people die younger. It's the same thing, dude. Earlier or younger? Is it? Nikon is offering free online photography classes for all of April. I would love that camera. I would love my camera to be working right now, but still looking for that battery in that box. It'll come. It'll come. I don't need to take pictures now. Single payer is good. Savings could be $500 billion a year, but these large cash payouts are simply unsustainable. But the U.S. Federal Reserve is printing $1 trillion a day. And now the Bank of Canada, ... Sanders proposes $2,000 monthly cash payments until the end of the coronavirus crisis. Well, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Wouldn't it? Because people are losing their shirts in this current economy. Wait a minute, I had a shirt on, and now I don't have a shirt. I worked hard for that shirt. Brooklyn landlord waives rent for all 80 of his tenants. Oh, that's nice. Well done. Am I going to have to pay it back? No, he waives it. That's the way it should be. No, I got an idea. Hey, come to our bank and we'll give you another loan. Don't worry. You don't have to pay for it for a while. But we'll own you afterwards. I wonder how many times in my life that's happened. Not only with banks. Wow. Eh? So beware of those people saying that they'll loan you money. How about just give it away? How about waive the whole thing? How about we all start from scratch? Do it all over again. New. 2 Afghan migrants arrested over a 3-hour rape streamed on Facebook Live in Sweden. I'm not sure what to say about that. That's not cool. Under any circumstance, rape is not cool. It's not even funny. I don't know. No, try it. Mystery as up to 300 dead birds fall out of sky with organs spewing out. What's going on there? This is the end of times. Susanna Duma, doctor, dies of coronavirus after leaving retirement to fight the pandemic. Well, that was ill-advised. You're old and it affects older people. So don't go putting yourself in harm's way when it comes to any kind of virus, for that matter, when you're older. Unless you got like a super strong immune system. If you're Superman, then... Or if you don't mind shortening your life, which is also equally fine a decision as one can make. I don't think you're speaking English anymore, friend. What a wonderful world it could be. Unfortunately, for 37.7 million Canadian citizens, the ruling government of Canada have very different ideas. In the midst of the coronavirus global debacle, the most extreme epidemic in modern history, the Liberal government of Canada has announced the following. Canada will welcome more than 1 million new permanent residents in the next 3 years. This was unveiled March 10th, 2020 in the federal government's 2020 immigration ... Continue reading, no. As COVID-19 rages, Trudeau government announces highest immigration intake in history. I think we should always take in immigrants. My grandparents and my mother was an immigrant from Holland to Canada. I know lots of immigrants. Why do we have borders? Intel, Dev, Tools. Fine. Fox News, game changer on hydroxyazithromycin combo. Success looks like the virus can be beaten quickly. Oh, success! Well done, Fox News. Fox News, CNN, MNSBCD News Channel. That doesn't exist. MSNBC. These are all purchased news companies, which I rarely look at. If only, maybe, to sometimes just say, that's what bot news looks like. Las Vegas homeless people are sleeping in parking lot 6 feet apart. Oh no! I got it. Oh, that's not good. Look at it. Oh, come on. This is so bad. 6 feet apart. No one should be homeless, ever. Everybody should at least have what I have. Kitchen, bathroom, the amenities that are natural for most of us to have. We don't need them, but we should have them. Internet, ways to communicate with one another, heat, food, the fucking basics. And now, in Vegas, people are sleeping in the street 6 feet apart because they're worried about the virus. What's going on? Like, it seems like the world is crazier now. Like, they're super prone to panic. Now, more than ever in history. I don't know if that's true, but come on. Sure seems like it. Now the homeless are worried. Like, the homeless are worried about the virus. So they're outside sleeping 6 feet away from each other. I don't know, let that sink in. Jessica Hilton McPherson, she just posted U.S. accused of Wild West methods by seizing 9 N5 masks destined for other countries, like Canada. This is Trump. This is Trump's administration. So this is the other side of the deep state, right? Might not be a part of the deep state, but they're a part of some other shitty business practices that affect everybody. Greed is their number one problem in the U.S. right now. The White House, their biggest problem is greed. Well, everybody that works in government, their biggest problem is greed, right? In every government, in every country, throughout the world. Greed. Are we live? We still live? Are we still live? 2:44:58. What else do you want to talk about? Let me check. Alright, so I'm going to answer some questions. Well, what questions do you think that you have the right and the correct information to answer said question? Well, I don't know what the question is yet. So, I don't know if I'm qualified yet. I don't get very many questions. So, this shouldn't take very long. And also, I might not do this because it's just taking way too long to see what my messages are. My crazy friends. Missed a call from Josephus. Peace, Vernie. Alright, so there's nothing there yet. Gotta stay on top of all this stuff. If you don't, by the end of the day, I'm gonna have like 300 things to do. And who wants to do 300 things at the end of the day? You gotta keep on top of it. Wind's coming from south? Yeah, wind's coming from the south. Look at that. Blowing all that that moisture towards Kelowna. Yep. It's picking up too. It's picking up. Vicky, let's see what you got to say. Vicky, you there? Vicky? Vicky? Bueller? Maybe we'll do this another time. This isn't working. We'll do it another time. We'll just do that the old way.
Performing
Hey.
without actions.
How you doing?
That is the
Good.
master's
You're live.
Right.
All right.
Yeah,
Visuals, boy.
we're shutting you down. Celeste McDonough. She posted, Mum creates periodic table battleship game to teach her kids chemistry. That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. It's a cool idea. Israeli bullets cross these three children their legs. Israel bullets cost these three children their legs. Israeli bullets cost these three children their legs. Probably true. This is news from Palestine. We can't just listen to Israeli news all the time, right? Countries. This is where countries go sideways. 20 years later, the world really is resembling the Dark Angel universe. I'm not happy with this unless Max Guevara breaks into my house. I don't understand that. China threat of EMP is real. EMP is some kind of electronic explosion of some kind, disrupting the electrical field, I believe. And America needs to meet the challenge. Investors Business Daily. Because we need to invest more in military. No, we do not. Actually, I love you. Investors. Very short-sighted. How many more millions, billions, trillions are going to be made off of the death of others? So, military, pharmaceutical companies, governments might want to think about these things. No? You don't want to think about these? Spain returns faulty coronavirus testing kits bought from China. Okay. Whoever's making these kits are making a fucking killing. But maybe we might not have money after this, so it really won't make any difference. If we're going to do a reset, we better do it right. The South, sickest part of a sick America, falls prey to virus. The Bloomberg report. Bloomberg. You remember that guy? Yeah, he's got his own station, the Bloomberg Report. And he ran for, president for a bit, and he threw out, I don't know, what? Chump change, really? How many billion? On the campaign of his own money? Yeah, he was not a good choice. Structure Lock. Structure Lock patented product bringing life back to older homes. Structure Lock. All right, I like it. If it works. Jinky, nice picture. Dave Teller. Taking pictures of cats now. I like it. Video. You want to see a video of a cat? Resume video, please. Oh, man. That's loud. That's loud. I like it. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. It's not morning anymore. It's 12:47 p.m. Coming to you live from Penticton, British Columbia, Canada at the Beaumont Motel in room 240. Just going over some really important things on my Facebook page. Bill Withers, singer of Lean on Me and Just the Two of Us, dies at 81. Just so you know. People die all the time. It's a part of our existence here while we're here. We'll see many people die. How good are you at death will determine how good you are at life. It's snowing out. It's snowing out. It's coming from the south. Cool. Oh, April 3rd, and it's snowing. All right. I think that's about it. I think that's it. How about Instagram? What's going on in Instagram? I'm gonna find out. Beautiful picture. Everybody's looking very beautiful today. Beautiful. I'll post all these. All three of them. First three that come up. Share. Share to Facebook. Yes, I will share. Next. What changes? Leave, yeah. Next. We good so far? Are we good? Might be time for a nap.
Whereas the memory of the sound just takes place in mind. And try to find that place in your experience just outside mind, from which we believe the sound originated. In order to believe that the sound originates outside mind, we must, whether we realize it or not, believe that mind exists inside the body. If the mind exists inside the body, then there is some justification for believing that the sound originated outside mind, which means outside the body. But go to your experience of the body now. Keep your eyes closed to begin with. Your body is a cluster of sensations and perceptions. It is the experience of sensing and perceiving. Do not sensing and perceiving take place in mind. Sensing and perceiving take place in mind and are made of mind. mind exists in the body, conditions our interpretation of the world. If the mind exists in the body, then everything outside the mind, that is, outside the body, must be something other than the mind. And matter is the name that our culture gives to this substance that supposedly exists outside mind. From this point of view, the world has existed much longer than we have. The world made out of matter was here first. The body appeared in the world made out of the stuff that the world is supposedly made of, that is matter. The brain developed in the body, made out of matter, and at some point gave rise to this substance called mind. This is the worldview that almost everybody, whether they know it or not, subscribes to. Matter is the ultimate nature of reality, the stuff out of which the universe is made. And mind is derived from it. And thus we all believe and feel. What I essentially am is a mind in a body, moving around in a world. From the point of view of this mind in the body, or self in the body, time and space are the container in which all experience appears. Time and space is, as it were, the background of the universe in which everything, including our own bodies and minds, exist.
We're going on 3 hours, 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Friday, 12:58
This
p.m.,
point of view might be
April 3rd, 2020.
justifiable if it wasn't
Coming
for
to you
something
live from
extraordinary that happens every night.
beautiful Penticton, British Columbia, Canada. Some would say
The
it's
body and
the
the
paradise
world vanish from
of
experience.
the Okanagan.
But
It's a jewel.
mind
It's a real jewel.
Continues. In other words, when we say, I fall asleep, the mind obviously doesn't fall asleep. All that happens is that the body and the world disappear from the mind, and a new body and a new world appear in the same mind. We call it the dreamed world seems to be known or seen from the perspective of the character in the dream that we seem to have become. But the entire dreamed world, with all the dreamed characters, including the dreamed character that we seem to have become, all takes place in the same mind that our waking state experience takes place in. And then something even more extraordinary happens. The dreamed world and the character that we seem to have become in the dream also vanish out of the mind, leaving mind empty. And then a new dreamed world appears, and then a new waking state world appears. It all takes place in mind. This is why the British physicist in the early 20th century, James Jeans, said, "It seems that the universe is a great thought, not a great machine." Just consider the possibility that everything you experience is mind. Thinking, imagining, feeling, sensing, seeing, hearing, tasting. It's not so hard to consider this possibility because it is actually in line with our experience. What should be much more difficult to imagine is that our experience is made out of something other than mind, such as matter. Because nobody has ever found or experienced that stuff. Could it be that all experience is a colouring of mind? Just like all movies are a colouring
of the screen. Test out this possibility in your experience. See if in your experience you can find anything other than the content of mind. If I am a mind in a body, then I am moving around in time and space. That is the conventional point of view. If the character in the movie believes that the screen exists inside its own body, then the character will feel, I move around in time and space. But ask yourself the question, if it is my experience that the body and the world appear in mind, does mind itself ever go anywhere? When I say mind itself, I mean consciousness, the essential, irreducible, uncolored essence of mind. The screen out of which the movie is made. Does the screen ever go anywhere in a movie? Do you, consciousness, ever go anywhere? Do you travel through time and space? Isn't it extraordinary that all experience takes place now and here? Is it possible that now is not a moment in time, and that here is not a place in space? If now were a moment in time, it would have a certain duration, and we would feel that it moves slowly along this line of time. And just ask yourself the question, how long does now last? And how fast is now moving through time? And what is the difference between this now and this now? Are you absolutely sure that now is in time? In order to be sure of that, we would have to experience this stuff called time. Try to experience time. Try to experience, for instance, the past. Just leave the now for a few moments and go into the past, the place where time supposedly exists. Maybe just go back a few seconds into the past. Don't worry, the now will still be here when you get back. What was it like there in the past? Can anybody tell us about it?
Consider yourself at home. Consider yourself part of the family. What'd you get up to, Rupert?
Strange that
Old glory.
our culture, our world culture is founded on a few very basic presumptions. Time being one of them. And yet, strangely, when we look for it, we never find it. Is that just because we don't look hard enough? Will we find it one day? that this fundamental presumption might not be true. Could it be that experience doesn't take place in time? But rather that it takes place in consciousness? Could it be that the medium in which experience takes place is consciousness, not time? Could it be that time is what consciousness looks like when viewed from the limited perspective of the finite mind? Just like when the character in a movie looks around herself at the landscape, she sees space. Space is what the screen looks like from her limited point of view. The two-dimensional screen looks like three-dimensional space from the point of view of the character in the movie. Could it be that infinite, dimensionless consciousness itself assumes the form of the finite mind, and from the point of view of the finite mind appears to itself as time and space? In other words, could it be that time and space are what infinite, dimensionless consciousness look like from the point of view of the finite mind? If this is true, then the now, from the point of view of the finite mind, is like a little window onto eternity. The now is the that the finite mind has to eternity. By eternity, I mean dimensionless consciousness. All experience is a movement of mind or a colouring of mind. And the essential nature of mind is pure consciousness, knowing. From the point of view of consciousness, it is always now, always the same now. That now is not going anywhere. It is not moving. It is eternity. The now is not going anywhere. It hasn't come from somewhere. This now is the only now there is. Now is another name for consciousness, the irreducible, indestructible, essential nature of mind. It never goes anywhere. It never does anything. All experience is a colouring of that, a movement of that. Birth and death are colourings of its own eternal being. It doesn't pass through birth and death any more than a screen passes through the beginning or the end of a movie. The beginning of a movie, the end of the movie, and all the time and space that takes place in the movie is simply a colouring of the transparent empty screen. The screen doesn't exist during the time in which the movie seems to take place. When the characters in the movie travel through space, The screen doesn't go anywhere. You, I, consciousness, are not traveling through time and space. We haven't come from somewhere. We are not going anywhere. We were not born. We are not evolving. We're not growing old. We're not destined for death and non-existence or rebirth. I, consciousness, am still in the same pristine, ageless condition that I am always in. I, consciousness, knows nothing of time. I, consciousness, never travel through space. I know nothing of space. Space is what my infinite, dimensionless being looks like from the point of view of the finite mind. It is I, consciousness, that assumes the form of the finite mind and appears to myself as space. The finite mind is a modulation of my infinite being. The finite mind is a coloring of myself, I, consciousness. It is I, consciousness, that freely assumes the form of the finite mind and appears to myself as the world. But I, consciousness, never cease to be myself. I never become something other than myself. The entire activity of mind takes place in me, is made of me. The limited mind is made out of me, but I am not made out of it. The limitations of the mind are made out of me, but I do not share its limitations. The limited movie is made out of the unlimited screen, but the unlimited screen is not limited by the movie. infinite consciousness am all there is to experience. I give birth to the world inside myself and seem to become a self in the world, from whose point of view that world is seen. In other words, in order to bring the world into existence, I have to divide myself in two. I become a separate subject of experience in order to know a separate object. Just like when Mary falls asleep in Garrison, she dreams that she is Jane on the streets of London. I thought it was time to introduce Mary and Jane for those of you that don't know her. She comes on all these retreats, but Mary is always sleeping at the back of the room. As soon as satsang begins, she falls asleep and she dreams that she's Jane in London, or Claire in Paris, or Keiko in Tokyo. So Mary is bored of satsang in Garrison. She thinks, how can I get out of here? Oh yeah, I want to go to London. She closes her eyes, she falls asleep. And she wakes up as Jane on the streets of London. That is the only way that Mary, in Garrison, can know the streets of London. She has to fall asleep to her own mind. She has to cease knowing her own mind as it is. She has to limit her own mind. And become Jane on the streets of London. Now, Jane on the streets of London thinks that she sees the streets of London with her mind, which is located just behind her eyes. When she closes her eyes, London disappears. She opens them again, London reappears. So she reasonably concludes that her mind lives in her head, just behind her eyes. When Jane is sitting on a train from London to Manchester and the phone goes off, she thinks the sound of the phone originated in the space outside my mind. But what is Jane's mind? Where is it located? Where is the knowing with which Jane knows her experience located? Is it located inside Jane's body? No. It is Mary's sleeping mind in Garrison. From Jane's point of view, the streets of London take place outside her mind. But Jane doesn't really have her own mind. Her own mind is just a temporary limitation superimposed on Mary's mind. Mary's mind is infinite. It has freely given up the knowing of its own infinite being in order to assume the form of Mary's limited mind. It is from the perspective of Mary's limited mind from the perspective of Jane Mary has given up the knowing of her own infinite being in order to assume the form of Jane's finite mind. It is through Jane's finite mind that Mary knows the streets of London. Jane doesn't have her own mind. Her own mind is just a limitation on Mary's infinite mind.